Oh, you got the chat on there. That's cool.
Yeah, that's from my other stream. Hello, everybody. Oh shit, I might be a bit loud there. Let's turn myself down a bit. I should have done a sound check as well, really, shouldn't I? This is so professional right now. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Okay. We're a little bit late because Rand screwed everything up.
Excuse me?
Okay, I screwed everything up, but we got there in the end. And Rand, can you give me a sound check?
Shouldn't we have done sound check before we went live?
Yeah, probably. Colt,
we were talking.
Colt, can you give me a sound check?
Yeah, I can do better than that. I can sound better than Randall Thor 19. How about
You
that?
can't sound better than me.
Wow.
Can't sound better than me.
Right, now the next bit.
This is Randall Thor 19.
Ooh,
Man with the million.
that was good.
Oh,
yeah, we'll
man.
get gameplay up. Just a minute there, Blue.
I
How's
just
everybody
need
doing?
Some gameplay. I need some gameplay. A media file. Add a source.
Jez is the host this week. It's going to be a different thing. Normally it's me. I've been host for 200 and some odd episodes plus the ultimates. But Jez is taking the reins, and he's already hit some bumps. You know, like this is turned out to be good.
Oh God, here we go. Here we go. Okay.
Let's give it a try.
Get it into the overlay somehow. How does that work? Oh shit, that's too.
Oh, we
Shrink
gotta
it
watch
down,
this at
bro.
30. Yeah, just shrink it.
Shrink it down, bro, to fix that box. But you probably recorded that at 30. Shit. Bro, or not you and Gaz, but you and Nick were going back and forth. You were like, it's what did you say it was? It's like you're playing the game and
through frosted glass. It's awful, man.
What? Colt told me it wasn't. Colt told me it looked really good, or good enough at least.
No, well,
I
sit
couldn't
really
see
close
any
to the
like
TV.
obvious jaggies when I played on my 4K TV, but
It's like something wrong. Like I couldn't play it like that. I was like, nah.
it's better than having somebody rub sand in your eyes when you play at 30 frames.
Oh, Nate says the audio.
Nate says audio is very unbalanced, so it was just quiet.
No, the
I
game.
feel like I'd be too loud.
The game was too loud. Let's mute the game.
Oh,
Right.
oh yeah.
Okay.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, I think we're ready. Oh wait, now my audio's gone now.
No, I don't know. I can still hear you, but that's
Hello,
not how that
testing.
works.
Oh god. Okay, it's working now. Okay, are you guys ready to start now?
3 thumbs up if you can hear all 3 of us in the chat, please.
Eddie says,
Amazing.
Eddie says,
Jez's first time hosting, just nothing but problems. Does a stream that lasts for 4 seconds, and that's ended up deleting, and then has to make a new one. This is why Rand hosts people. You know, I may not be the most professional host, but most of the time everything works properly.
Okay.
And you know, how embarrassing to have this happen on our first Xbox 2 or Xbox 2+1 episode with the amazing Colt Eastwood, huh?
Yeah, I'm so sorry, everybody. But come on, let's start then. You guys ready? I'm gonna do it properly. Are you finished, Rand? Are you finished?
I'm finished.
Hating. Right. Okay.
I'm finished.
Okay. So intro plays here. I'm gonna have to splice that in with an Audacity later. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of the Xbox 2+1 guest special super show, which is Patreon exclusive for a few days, and then it's going to go live to the public on YouTube on my channel at JOZORZ on YouTube. We had a small, tiny technical problems to start with, but now we're going. We're rocking and rolling, and I'm joined by the man with the million, Randall419. Say hello, Rand.
Hello, how's everybody doing on this fine Wednesday? We were supposed to do this yesterday. My fault. I had people stop by. Couldn't do it, but here we are on a Wednesday, and I couldn't be happier with our first guest because he's someone I talk to every single day. And I don't mean that like, oh, I talk to him every day. Like, I literally talk to Colt Eastwood every single day, whether it's on the phone or on the console. And last night, me and him had an epic 5-hour session of Vampire Survivors. So
That's crazy.
there's nobody better to have on for the first time than my buddy, Colt Eastwood, and you picked the guest too, Jez. This was your choice because
Yes.
you don't get the podcast with Colt because of time differences, and I know how much Colt has wanted to get you on XNC, his show.
Well, like Colt podcasts in the middle of the night for me, and I've always wanted to, join Colt and Gaz on XNC and hang out, but it just hasn't been feasible for me. So I thought, this is it. This is my chance to get on a show with Colt, and he's here, Colt Eastwood, a YouTube Xbox superhero. How you doing, Colt? Give us a rundown.
I'm really good. I'll get you on one of these nights or one of these days. Gaz and I'll do the show like 3 hours early or something, so you can make it. And he wants to stay up late, but I'm really excited to be here. It's not a joke when Rand says we talk. Like, I literally twirl my fingers in my hair while I'm on the phone with him. Like we're just like little teenagers sitting on the phone, chewing gum, going, "What's going on with Xbox today, Rand?" We talk for like an hour almost every day, at least.
Oh, wow.
And I would have the same, friendship with Jez if he wasn't, 10 hours ahead of me. But yeah, I'm really glad to be here. And holy crap, there have been a lot of games. I'm like way behind. So
you're way behind.
Let's do
Colt.
it.
You are so behind. I've never seen Colt buried by an avalanche of games before like this.
It never has this happened. Yeah. So we'll talk about that as we get in the show. But hi, everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of crazy how like Xbox is, supposedly having a bad year, but I feel like I ain't got time to play everything that's coming out, And yeah, a lot of it's like maybe double.
Thank God for third parties.
Yeah, third parties doing the heavy lifting, right? But
all the lifting.
Well, I gotta say, the funny thing was, this is Xbox's worst year in their whole entire history for first party games. Right? They've never had it this bad. Like 2017 was the other bad year. This is the worst. And because I knew that Starfield and Redfall got delayed, I was like, oh, what am I going to do this year? I actually spent, this won't make any sense to you two, but I spent a chunk of the first half of the year playing Major League Baseball, MLB 22. And then I got into Grounded like never before. So I played a ton with my kids and played a ton with Rand. And I kind of was like biding this time. And then the big games started to come in. I'm like, okay, it's time. And I'm already behind. Once Plague's Tale Requiem came in, I'm only like 4 or 5 hours into it, and then something else came out, and it's horrible. It's like everybody's like, it got no games, and I am literally buried for the first time as an Xbox fan with more games than I can get to.
That's because you've been spending your time playing a little game called Vampire Survivors, a game that literally came out of nowhere. And you had no intentions of ever playing, and now you've played for how many hours now?
I don't know. You and I have half of the achievements, and they're little 5-pointers. Yep. We were like unlocking 9 at a time last night.
Oh, it was
Everyone's
fun.
like, "What is this game?" I want to hear. I got to hear what Jez thinks about Vampire Survivors because we're loving this game.
I mean, I love the drip feed of achievements. Like every time you complete a level, it's like achievement. It really knows how to like create that rewarding feedback loop, and like other roguelikes that do it really well, like they do it really well when it's done right. Stuff like Hades, Hades does it pretty well with the constantly giving you rewards and stuff. But Cole, before we get into topics, not that we have any topics because this is completely disorganized, but I just want you to introduce yourself because just in case, because this is going to go out to our podcast services a little later. It's Patreon exclusive now. I just want you to tell the people a little bit about yourself, where they can find you online, and all that kind of stuff, and then we'll find some topics, and I'll tell you what I think about Vampire Survivors.
I think, do we have questions from? I mean, the people, the patrons in the chat can obviously ask anything, and we'll get to it. But did anybody leave any questions for us on the Patreon posts that they wanted to ask? Oh, we have some of those too. Okay, cool.
Yeah, we have Patreon questions as well, but I thought, Colt, tell us about you. Tell us your gaming story. Tell us your whole
I have a
story.
funny gaming story. I started on the television in the early 80s and got a Nintendo NES in like 88. And that's when I realized I don't want to go to school anymore. I remember I was like 12 and my mom's like, all right, guys, we played it all weekend. She bought us, my parents bought us a Nintendo, and they're like, time to get ready for bed. I'm like, why? She goes, you got school tomorrow. I'm like, but I don't want to go to school anymore. So my brother called me a Nintendo freako back in the day, my little brother, and that embarrassed me. So I basically took 10 years off of gaming during the GameCube era, the N64 era, where I just wasn't gaming. I was raising a family and went to college and built a house and got into my career and everything. And then I'm like, I got to get a console. So once I got an Xbox original and 360, I got rehooked again on gaming and started this YouTube channel because Xbox One was the worst launch of anything ever. And I bought the console anyway because my friends had it. I'm giving you guys the really truncated version because I think it's funny. I hated the Xbox One concept. I almost got a PlayStation 4, but all of my friends I played with every night on Call of Duty and Borderlands and stuff like that. They went to the Xbox One, so I'm like, all right, fine, I'll buy an Xbox One. And I'm like, this console everyone hates, it's super good. This stupid Kinect that I hated, the console voice commands are amazing. And I started to do this YouTube channel so I could kind of prove to people how great this console is, and it turned into, I guess, something I could do for I don't know, get some acknowledgement. So it's
very
weird.
similar to my story, you know, like being surprised about the Xbox One and being like, hang on a sec, all the YouTubers I watch are wrong about this, and I'm gonna tell everyone about it as well.
Yes.
But I was too lazy to make videos, so
I have this background in I've been doing video production and videography and photography for years in my career and stuff like that. So I'm like, well, I know how to do this stuff. I'll try and make videos, because I was watching this one prominent Xbox YouTuber at the time back in like 2013, 2014, and he would just slam gameplay on there. I'm like, well, I like his stuff, but there's more to it than just talking over Wave Runner footage. And so I tried to make some videos I thought people would enjoy watching while I you guys are laughing, right?
I wonder who that person was that you watched who threw up Wave Runner footage of games.
Yeah, and
Was it Ron?
I mean, I have to add in there. I mean, I watch the guys' videos every day, or all week, right? And I enjoyed them, and I got a lot of news out of them. But I'm like, I think I can do a little bit better, and maybe people watch my stuff. And then Dealer Gaming found my channel, and I've been watching him too. And he's like, hey, I want to help you out. You make good stuff. And the guy changed my life. He said, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong. And he's kind of given some of those advices to Rand over the years, and some of that advice. And he changed my life. So now I'm a YouTuber with over 100,000 subs. Really fortunate that people have checked out my stuff. And you guys in the chat probably who are here right now might have heard of me. And then I got to start a podcast, and I get to podcast with my good friends and guests that have become good friends. So I'm really grateful to be here, guys. That's me. That's Colt Eastwood anyway.
Colt Eastwood.
Colt Eastwood. Well, you know, Colt, yeah, you were one of the guys who were like, when I first went to E3, you were one of the guys that were, you know, sort of made me feel welcome in the community, you know, because I was like, I was so damn shy. I tell you, I was like,
so was I. I thought you were the superstar.
No,
I
thought
turned
you
around.
were.
Sean the Breeze like, Colt. Jez Gordon's behind us. I'm like, Jez from Windows Central. He's right behind us. And I'm like, and I was like, I looked around. I go, hey Jez. Like, I didn't want to be like one of those people. Like, oh, it's Jez Gordon. So I tried to act normal.
No, I felt the opposite way. I felt like I was the outsider and the weird one, and
No way,
I was like,
man.
I don't want to like. But yeah, you made me feel welcome anyway. You were one of I mean, there was a bunch of guys who made me feel welcome, but you were among them.
That was a great day, great weekend.
And we bumped into each other at the airport as well.
Yeah, you were on your way out you were heading back to Germany or UK at the time in 2019.
I can't remember.
I think it was Germany, but I saw you, and you looked like you were just like ready to sit down on that plane and close your eyes, because it was a busy weekend.
It was hardcore
and a fun weekend.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, but it's always so damn busy at E3. I'm hoping I'll be able to go next year, but the UK economy's in a bit of a state right now, and they're freezing travel budgets. I might just front the money myself, you know. I'm trying to save up for a surgery. People in the Patreon team might know from one of the previous shows, but yeah, I might just go to E3, because at the end of the day, it'll be content, and maybe me and Rand can do a Patreon.
Dude, not only me and you,
show.
but we could get like a round table of Xbox people.
Oh my God, yeah.
We could get Colt or Cognito, do like a Xbox 2 Monday special, because, you know, with the weight loss going the way it is, you know, there's like a number I have in mind, or at least how I'm feeling, where I'm like, you know what? I told Colt this the other day. I was like, I'm leaning more towards going to E3 next year than not going. So we'll see.
How much have you lost now?
I think a little bit over 50 or right at 50.
Oh, wow.
Or somewhere
Well,
there.
I'll
So,
tell you, Rand, you've inspired me, to get back on the wagon, and I've lost 17 pounds in 3
Oh
weeks.
yeah.
So I'm
Oh
back. I'm
yeah.
back on the wagon.
Colt
man.
Eastwood even what you stopped drinking like Mountain, right?
Yeah,
You got
yeah,
big
that's like cutting off
now,
my
yeah.
oxygen supply. Yeah, I'm trying to stay off of Mountain Dew. Horrible, horrible headaches when
Yep.
24 hours passes since I've been drinking the nectar of the gods. Yeah, I'm like a heroin addict with Mountain Dew. But
He is.
there's a lot of things in life that can become like incredible vices, and
Mountain
gaming's
Dew.
one of them. So it's Mountain Dew, but no, it's good. As far as like meeting up at E3, there's going to be a whole bunch of great people there, and if Special Nick makes it, we could just make fun of him the whole time. It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
No, I'm
Unfortunately, Special Nick's not here, so it's not as fun not to be able to make fun of him like when he's here.
Yeah.
When he's
we like it when he.
listening,
No,
right?
I love Nick. He's great, and he was razzing. Him and Jez were razzing back and forth about 30 and 60 frames and just having a good time. The community's amazing. It really is amazing.
Yeah, like the thing that I love the most out of all this stuff that we've all been doing is the Xbox community. Like the amount of friends I've made and the fact that we can like direct the community's feedback straight up to Xbox. That's something I do all the time. Like I just DM and like someone DMs me like this is a problem on Xbox, and I'll be like, sending it straight to the people that can fix it. You can't do that on if you're like in the Nintendo or PlayStation community, and I'd find that really boring. I'd find it boring. So, there's cheers to the Xbox community, and for bringing us all together and rocking and rolling.
We got the amazing chat and everybody here, amazing people that watch Xbox 2, that watch mine and Colt videos every single week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video I put out yesterday with the Colt Eastwood thumbnail special. Making it very
Jim Ryan full of tears.
Jim Ryan full of my wording on the right hand side, because it's like, what, screw it. I think I've done was the one that PlayStation keeps complaining. I was just like, screw it. PlayStation keeps bitching. And I was like, yeah, we'll not do this, and like what happened today? I woke up and it was just more nonsense, like it's just like, oh, it never ends. It never ends. It just keeps on going. And we got months left of this, and it's like I already have people asking me if I'm gonna make a video about it. I'm just like, oh, gag me with the spoon, bro.
Yeah, and we've got even more of it now, and it just feels like never ending. On that note, shall we move to a topic? Because don't want to keep Colt here for 4 hours. We do the 4-hour show.
he is like, every time he's like, you guys went for another 4-hour show? Like, yeah, he's like, how the F do you do that?
I'm
like, I don't know, it just happens, I guess.
Yeah, it literally just happens. But that's pretty much the big news of the week, is that the CMA, the UK regulatory body, the CMA, competitions and something, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but they published Sony and Microsoft's October statements in almost their entirety. There are large sections of it redacted as pertains to financial information and business critical information or whatever. But
it looks like a Call of Duty briefing, like in a loading screen.
Yes, it does. It's all like Black Ops stuff. But we got some interesting news stories out of that today. First of all, the fact that Sony claims Microsoft hit 29 million subscribers with Xbox Game Pass, although it does seem like they were citing some sort of third-party analysis with that figure. They don't actually know. Still, it's interesting that they actually made that claim while also downplaying their own subscription service.
Yes, while also redacting their own as well.
Yeah,
they made sure to not redact the number that Game Pass has, and then redacting their own number.
Yeah, which is hilarious.
Dirty tactics.
But also,
Dirty.
Yeah, the bold-faced hypocrisy of claiming that Microsoft would raise console prices if they're able to get control of Call of Duty, completely, seemingly omitting and ignoring the fact that they literally raised console prices in the UK and Europe by an egregious amount during a cost of living crisis, which I'm honestly, I think that's an own goal because I don't think that's going to go down well with the regulators, given how much the cost of living crisis is in the media in the UK. But I digress. That's the main topic of the week so far. I suppose we'll have to end up discussing it on Xbox 2 this week as well, Rand, probably, unless there's some other
probably.
news.
Well, are we doing a show on Friday? Because I know Black Friday is usually a busy day for you. I know we're contractually obligated to do a podcast every week, so
Yeah, we are contractually.
are we doing a show on Friday, or are we doing it on Saturday?
We have
Because
to
if
do
we're
it
doing it on Saturday, we gotta inform poor Gaz and Asa.
We are doing it on Friday. We have to do it on Friday.
We're doing it on Friday.
I can't do it on Saturday or Sunday, so it has to go live on Friday. You can't be ill and you can't have visitors around.
Right.
We have to do it on Friday.
Okay.
Good. But yeah, did you guys see this? You guys saw this, right? This whole stuff with Sony and the CMA. I'll pass it to Colt first. Colt.
Oh yeah, it was our wake up. It was our morning breakfast.
Yeah, it was your breakfast.
Yeah.
It was afternoon for me when all this stuff broke, and I was in the middle of writing a deal post or something on Windows Central, and then it started flooding through Twitter. Sony and Microsoft statements come out. What first went through your mind when you saw some of Sony's comments in full, Colt? Give us a rant. Give us the lowdown on your thoughts on this.
The very first, obviously the word hypocrisy is the very first thing I thought, but the very first my overall reaction is like, oh, you whiny brats, you entitled whiny brats. These, this is pushed forward by PlayStation leadership and Sony leadership through their law team to paint this picture that Microsoft is this tech giant that cannot be destroyed or taken down. And this whole thing that Call of Duty is the be all end all, the whole whining about, I don't want to spread this out too thin because there's a lot to cover if you just want to like make fun of each individual aspect of this. But to say that Call of Duty will be exclusive and people won't buy PlayStations anymore, we're going to lose our money, it really paints the picture, Jez and Rand, that PlayStation tells their fans, and their fans preach, they stand on their soapbox and say it's all about the AAA banger exclusives and selling consoles, when really PlayStation's made it very, very abundantly clear that it is all about selling other people's games. They strike more third-party exclusive deals than any platform in the console business. They sell more of the multiplats than any other console platform. So a game like Call of Duty or a game like Minecraft or a game like Far Cry or Borderlands, they are most likely going to sell more copies than even on PC. They're going to sell more copies than Xbox. And they have the console dominant market. And for them to just sit there and say, well, we liked when we could have exclusive deals and make the market think Call of Duty is the only place to play. On PlayStation is the only place to play. And they feel like Xbox will finally have some sort of equilibrium, and they don't want equilibrium. They want pure market dominance. They want Xbox to fizzle out and die. And I said yesterday that PlayStation was perfectly happy when Xbox was floundering, underfunded, and fizzling out and left to die by Terry Myerson. And Phil Spencer had to come in and fight for the platform, say, look, Microsoft, you want a gaming sector. And now that they're all in and they're buying games, they're building games just like PlayStation does, PlayStation's not happy because it's a major threat to their bottom line, to their money they make every single year. They make way more money than they make off all those games than they do on their AAA games. And someone said to me, this is the last thing I'll say and then I'll let go of the mic, I'm so sorry. But somebody said to me today, it seems like they take all that money they make from games like PlayStation so they can fund their first party. And I said, you know what? You might be right.
Yeah, it's a mess, and furthermore, to me, it just kind of confuses me. And Rand, what do you think's going through Sony's mind here when they're putting out these statements? Because a lot of the stuff they're saying is demonstrably, provably, at least misleading. Even like Jim Ryan said to the New York Times or someone that he denied they were misleading regulators with some of their statements. Like I can't understand what they're trying to pull here.
I mean, isn't it obvious? They're trying to get the deal blocked in any way, shape, or form that they can. So they're basically trying to say whatever they can say to convince the regulators that this is bad for business, this is bad for consumers, and the deal needs to be blocked. I mean, that whole thing basically just kind of read like, do as do as I say, not as I do, right? The whole part about how like Sony's like, we increased the price of our consoles because of macroeconomics, and then literally was like, but Microsoft might raise the price of Game Pass once they get Call of Duty because they'll have no competition. But it's like, so when you do it, it's okay because you're not exerting your market influence. It's just inflation. But when Microsoft does it in a hypothetical price increase, right, which is, oh my God, look over there, this MFer might be going to raise the price in 2 years. What an asshole! Even though you've already done it yourself, and they're going to do it because they're going to foreclose its rivals and stuff. Like, not do it because they might have to, because of the same reasons you did. You know, like I'm not surprised because I said in my video, and I think I've been saying this for a while, that Sony's goal here is to completely block the deal, and they'll say and do whatever it is they can to make that happen. And yes, reading through that stuff. Go ahead.
I got to interject that totally agrees with what you're saying. You know how we say that PlayStation looks weak, or they look like they're whining, or they make these statements that make them look like they're subservient. I don't know what the word is. Yeah, subservient of Xbox, right? So all those things make them look bad. They know that if they can get the deal blocked, like Rand said, like at all costs, once the deal's blocked and Xbox doesn't have that market power, all that will dissolve away. How PlayStation looked weak. No one will care because all of the spotlight will be on the Activision deal. Didn't make it. They had to pay the fee. Now Xbox has to go do something else, and PlayStation continue to just roll in money. So they can look super weak. Jim can have puffy red eyes crying on camera if he wanted to, and it'll soon be forgotten because I think blocking it means more than anything. Is that what you're kind of getting at, Rand?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, like I try to put myself in Sony's position here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if like the worst case scenario, like if Sony didn't do anything, if Sony didn't have an issue with this deal, what's the worst that happens? Microsoft acquires Activision, and Call of Duty remains on PlayStation. Because as Jez said from months and months and months ago, and I agreed with him, Jim Ryan and PlayStation know that that Call of Duty is not leaving their platform. It's too big and it makes too much money, and they knew this from the start. Microsoft's not removing it. So if you don't fight the deal, what's the worst that happens? You still get Call of Duty, right? But if you fight the deal, what's the best outcome? Hell, the best outcome is you get the deal blocked. You severely hurt Microsoft in that regard. They got to give up $3 billion. Maybe they get skittish about acquisitions. I mean, who knows what the future would hold, right? So that would be the best outcome. And even the worst outcome, even if you tried to fight it, what's the worst outcome? Microsoft gets 0 concessions, and Sony still gets Call of Duty. So to them, they're probably just like, why not fight it? Why not do all we can to block it? Because the worst thing that could possibly happen is we still get Call of Duty. Realistically. So it's like, why not shoot for the stars? Why not shoot and try to get the deal completely blocked? Why not like hold up Microsoft from potentially getting all these other studios that, you know, like Eidos Montreal and you know, the other studio, Crystal Dynamics, like that passed by because Microsoft can't buy anything in between, right? Maybe they even get them to get a concession. Like, what happens if they convince the regulators and they're like, hey, you're right, you know what? Microsoft, you can purchase Activision Blizzard, but you're not allowed to put Call of Duty in Game Pass or put it on Azure for 5 or 6 years, right? Or what if they said you can put Call of Duty on Game Pass, but you also have to put it on PlayStation Plus? So
why does PlayStation get to make? Why does PlayStation get to call the shots? It's not even their company.
Not their company, but regulators, the government regulators are there to make sure that monopolies don't form and that competition isn't lessened. Which is why this whole thing's ridiculous, because like you mentioned, Colt, PlayStation's perfect version of competition is 150 million PlayStations sold and 50 Xboxes sold. That is
Where do you get that?
PlayStation. Well, I'm just throwing numbers out there. 120.
Yeah, I mean, it does sound like where they're at.
PlayStation's perfect definition of competition is 120 million PlayStation 4s and 55 million Xboxes. That
yeah,
is
if I was going to go to a
competition is
singing
them.
competition, I would definitely want, the 5 singers I go up against for 3 of them to be really bad. Then I wouldn't have to worry. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
but that's what you said. It's about competition. They didn't have any competition during the Xbox One era. Now with this, with the Bethesda purchase, with all the other things they're doing with Game Pass, there might be more competition. If there's more competition, that means Sony loses market share, Sony loses power, Sony loses money, all at the expense of Microsoft, which is something, they don't want. So in that regard, it's like their whole thing in that article was them basically decrying the rise of competition. Like, they mentioned they might have
funny. Instead of crying the Monopoly.
PlayStation users might have to actually go buy an Xbox at £450 to play Call of Duty. It's like, oh my God, the horror. If you are an Xbox fan who loves Spider-Man and who's been playing Spider-Man for the last 3 generations on Xbox, well, I don't know, the new Spider-Man that came out, if you wanted to play that, you had to spend $300 or $400 to play it on PlayStation, but nobody complained, right? And I also find it funny that Sony uses the $450 pound, Xbox when there isn't just a 189 pound,
the 160
Series
pound
S,
or whatever it is,
or the
160?
fact that you could play it on PC, or the fact that you could stream it. Right, they're using oh my God, they might have
Worst
to actually
case
buy
scenario.
something new.
They're doing the doing the fanboy thing where they say, meanwhile, you ever notice how fanboys do that? Meanwhile, over here, you got to buy a $500 Xbox to play Call of Duty, when the truth is it's a 160 pound or $300 Series S, or you could play it on a smart TV, you can play it on a tablet, blah blah blah, or you play it on your mom's laptop if it has an Edge browser.
It's. People might scoff at the idea of playing Call of Duty on cloud, but I tried something I hadn't tried before at the recommendation of an Xbox engineer the other day, and who told me, instead of using the Android app, try the web app on your phone instead, because the web app is where a lot of the development's focused so far, and this will tie into our next topic, which is Apple and Google's duopoly. But he said try the web app version. It's a little bit more advanced, and I did. And I was able to play. I'm pretty terrible at Halo Infinite anyway, but I was able to play Halo Infinite like it was almost native. And this is multiplayer. It's getting there. It's getting seriously crazy. I didn't share any gameplay footage because I'm really bad at Halo. If Overwatch was on the cloud, which it will be, it'd be a completely different scenario. But I think the cloud is getting there, which is like, one. I want to change the direction of this discussion a little bit, because one thing I thought was quite interesting from all these statements is that Microsoft seems to be trying to shift the argument away from consoles and towards mobile, because the CMA also announced this week that, pretty much at the behest of Microsoft, they're going to invest Google and Apple for blocking cloud streaming services on their platforms. And I kind of feel that's a direct result of all this, Call of Duty stuff as well. So do you think Microsoft could end up cracking open iOS and Android as a result of this? Because one thing that really bugs me about Apple is that, Sony and Microsoft, right? They take a 30% cut or something like that. I think it's 30%. Is it 30%? I think it's 30%.
I think so.
Yeah.
So they take a 30% cut, but they sell their hardware at cost. The whole business model is that cut. Whereas Apple, they take a 30% cut, and they also sell their hardware at a massive a massive margin. It's something like 50% margin, I think, on an iPhone or something. So Apple's Apple's taking both, a cut from developers and a cut on the hardware, cut from consumers, and also, jacking up prices with this duopoly. So, do you think there's a scenario where the losers of this whole situation could end up being Apple and Google and not Microsoft or Sony?
I don't know very much about this, but it seems to me that Google's been really anti Xbox and anti Microsoft for so long, and then Apple has made it so difficult for Microsoft and Xbox to do anything with the cloud in the store. And there's some stuff that I don't quite understand that I talked about the other day about how you can't just go on the Xbox mobile app and redeem a code, as far as I know. And I think
Apple
it's
blocks it.
because of the what's that?
They block it.
Yeah, Apple blocks it.
Apple and Google block it. They say, like, if you want to
So
do that,
Xbox
you
had to
have
make
give
a
us 30%.
revamped version of the Xbox app on mobile and completely take out the store, take out the redeem a code feature because it's all tied into what Apple says is not legally allowed for them to have cloud on iOS.
For those of you that don't know, Apple has a rule that you cannot buy games or buy something from the same app that you can stream something, right? So
it's more to that. It's they don't want to store within a store on their app, right?
Well,
if you're on iOS, they don't want you to have.
PlayStation has its app, and you can buy all the games on the app. However, they have a separate streaming app. The remote streaming app is a completely separate app. Xbox wanted it for whatever reason to put the streaming app within the main app. So by iOS's rules and standards, they can't have a store to buy things from, which is why you can download any game from the app and then pay for it on the web or pay for it on the console. So Sony went for a different approach. They split up the streaming app so they could have a store. And Microsoft went for the approach where they wanted streaming in the. So it's just a matter of who do you think had. I think Microsoft went the wrong way because it's like, nobody can buy the game on the app, but you can stream it on. Like, I don't know. I think it's the wrong choice Microsoft made, and they had to follow iOS's rules. But yeah,
one of the issues is that there's inconsistent rules between platforms. So, for example, the rules on Google Play are different. And obviously that's somewhere where Microsoft is targeting because Google doesn't block streaming services on its platform, unlike Apple. You can't even have a cloud gaming platform on Apple because they want you to offer all those games in the subscription service as separate entities on their store, which is why like the Netflix app, because Netflix has games, when you try and download a game through the Netflix app, it actually links out to a separate app within the iOS store separately for every single game, which is really, really dumb. And the reason they've done it that way is to discourage companies from actually trying to do something like xCloud, because Apple's really anti-competitive and shitty, frankly. But I think it's something to do with the code bases Microsoft wants to use. Like it's cheaper for them if they have one app that kind of does everything. Like they don't have to maintain a separate code base for Android and iOS because, you know, for example, on Google Play, Amazon had to remove all the audiobooks from Amazon's store app recently because Google created a change where it's like, oh, Amazon's competing with our audiobooks and our books, that are digital book sales, so we're going to block anything related to Kindle on from Amazon. So now if you want to buy a book for your Kindle on Google on an Android phone, you have to go to Amazon's bloody website, which is a pain, you know. And it's this kind of stuff that I think regulators are increasingly interested in regulating because Google is Amazon's a huge tech company too, but it's kind of like Google is screwing over Amazon because, you know, they want to promote their own products. That is literally limiting consumer choice, you know, which is like also like Microsoft going to argue that, okay, we want to make this streaming platform and bring people more value on iOS and Android, but Google and Apple won't let us, you know, they won't let us do it. But if we have Call of Duty, maybe we'd have the clout to force through change, which is what Epic Games is trying to do with Fortnite and Rocket League and stuff like that as well. So it's a whole, you know, mess of overlapping court problems, and I think like the landscape is going to look very differently in the next 2 or 3 years with regards to some of this stuff. But, you know, I just want to drop in, so, you know, move the podcast along because otherwise we'll end up talking about this topic for 4 hours. and you know, we want to respect Colt's time. But I'm going to drop a I'm going to drop a question from It's Firm 28 from Patreon, who's got a question for you, Colt. I saw on Twitter that Colt really liked Grounded. I'm enjoying my playthrough so much that I don't want to finish it. What do you all think is coming next for Grounded? DLCs, free updates with new content, or just a whole new Grounded 2 in a few years? And then he's got a follow-up question, which I'll ask after you answer that one. So what do you think? What do you guys think is next for Grounded?
I asked the team when I interviewed them on my channel, and it sounds like content updates. I can't even remember the stuff they added after Rand and I and my kids and I finished everything and wrapped everything up that we wanted to do. But they've added little segment or little parts of the yard or another creature or something or new weapons. I guess they're just going to kind of keep updating it. Honestly, I think they should expand the yard more, but they've had 13 million people play it. But one of the problems, if we end up talking about Game Awards later on in the show, is Grounded's incredibly amazing, but it didn't get talked about.
Yeah.
Kind of like Stray. It didn't really get talked about that much. So I don't think it was really in the mind of the jury that ended up voting on it. There was other things I guess they enjoyed more or that they actually got to. It also didn't get a lot of reviews, so maybe it just wasn't in their periphery. But
yeah,
Grounded's amazing. So I don't know. There's not going to be a Grounded 2, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think it's only honestly an issue with early access games. I think it kind of like there's benefits to early access, of course, because like you can get feedback from your gamers and set up a live service and stuff. But sort of like when it rolls round to 1.0, I kind of feel like you're sort of that sort of marketing burst that you would otherwise get has kind of been spread thin across like a year or two.
For 2 years.
Yeah. I think that's a
but
little
fortunately,
unfair,
the community really molded Grounded in such an incredible way that I don't think I don't know if those things all would have landed the same if they had done it on their own.
Well, this is
and so
why,
Rand got to experience it when it was complete from the get-go. So
yeah, I mean, this is why, like, partially, I touched upon this in my critique of the Game Awards last year, which made, you know, lots of people very angry, game journalists, and probably Jeff Keighley as well. I touched upon this a little bit, where it was kind of like the Game Awards, like, it sort of focuses too much on the zeitgeist at the time and the recency bias and all that kind of stuff. Like, because Grounded didn't have, like, a zeitgeist around it, because we're all chasing SEO. I'm not really blaming game journalists for this at all, but they still took it that way, I think. But like, because we're all chasing SEO and where the most traffic is, like, it's sort of like things that are maybe mechanically good get overlooked. You know, I feel like Pentiment will get overlooked because it's like, it's not, it's almost like an art piece. It's not even like, you know, it's not like you don't go out with a gun shooting and blazing. It's almost like a well-researched scholarly kind of game, and I feel like it deserves some form of recognition, but it won't get any because there's no SEO juice on Pentiment. Literally nobody's googling Pentiment. So because of that, there's a sort of bias, I think, among content creators and the media in general, where
I mean, look at the reviews. I mean, how many people reviewed Pentiment? It was like 20 or something.
Yeah.
It was really, really low. And how many people reviewed God of War Ragnarok? It was like 128.
Yeah.
There's a major difference.
Yeah.
I've seen it. Rand and I've seen that a lot when we've talked about games getting reviewed that are like exclusive to Xbox. Even something as big as Forza Horizon Hot Wheels had very few reviews. People are like, that's all right.
Yeah, it's tough, you know, because I appreciate the position that content creators are in. Like, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Google, you kind of have to go where the traffic's going to be, right? But at the same time, it's like, how much value should we put into one award show? Because, you know, so much stuff is going to get overlooked because we're all playing Google's game, right? Anyway, the next part of It's Firm 28's question is, what's a game, Colt, that you love that everybody else hates? And he gives the example of, mine are the MotoGP games. A lot of people trash on them because it's kind of difficult to control those bikes. Lol. So what's a game you like, Colt, that everyone else hates? And I'll ask this to Rand as well.
You have to promise that Rand won't speak up when I say this.
Uh-oh. Be nice.
There's two games that come to mind without me even thinking about it. One is Dead Island 1. I really like it, and I know it's really campy and it's really poorly made, but I just can't stop playing it when it came out. The other one's Crackdown 3's campaign. I really liked it.
Christ.
Shut up, Rand. Okay, thanks for having me on, guys. I'll see you later.
And Crackdown 3, the
Oh,
best
man.
62 meta game you'll ever play.
Oh my
dear.
gosh.
Rand, what's yours then, Rand? If is yours so much better than Crackdown, Rand? What's your game?
No, Rand will never admit that he plays something that's subpar. He's like up in his ivory tower going, "Oh, please bring me some finger foods while I play my 86 and up Metacritic games only."
Is that true, Rand? Are you a
I don't
gaming
know.
snob?
No, I'm not a gaming snob at all.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
not a snob at all. I'm trying to think of a game that I enjoyed that was routinely panned, and I can't think of anything on such short. This is supposed to be about Colt Eastwood, not about Randolph Orr.
I want to know for me.
I think I
though.
was right, Jez.
Yeah, I want to know for me. I think Colt was right. I think Rand's like copping out right now. Gunstar75 in
out.
chat says Barbie.
I think he can think of a couple, but he doesn't want to admit that he liked them
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I have
someone
no
might go, "That
problem
game's
admitting,
trash."
dude. I admitted on my podcast that one of my secret musical artists I love listening to is the one and only Taylor Swift.
That's
Swizzle
facts.
part of the T
Didn't
Swift
you and I
army.
played something recent? Didn't you and I play something this year that was? Oh, Gotham Knights. Gotham Knights is a good example.
Yeah, I mean, but Gotham
There you
Knights
go.
reviewed some. I mean, in the 70s. I mean, like 70's still a good score.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, hell, even a 6 is technically, if you go by like a full 1 to 10 scale, 6 would be better than average, right? But nobody really views
Yeah,
it like that.
Everyone treats it like a grade at school, though.
Yeah, they're like
A 60 is like an
what
F.
the hell?
It's literally unplayable.
Yeah, it's the worst thing of all time.
Jez, what's your guilty pleasure that's like a low rated piece of garbage?
Overwatch 2.
Man, Overwatch is highly rated. What game of the year? What the hell? Well, that's the thing, right? I like a lot of games that are pariahs, amongst people who don't play them. Like World of Warcraft is hated by everyone who doesn't play it. Overwatch is hated by everyone who doesn't
Sure.
play it. So like,
Fortnite is hated by everyone who doesn't play it.
yeah, but
Yeah.
I suppose like one game that I do love that did not review well and was a massive flop is probably Heroes of the Storm, another Blizzard game. It's the
Oh, that's a good game though.
yeah.
People just didn't like that it wasn't as amazing as its competitors, right?
I mean, it was like it was panned for being simple. I think like there's no pickups and there's no items and stuff like that. So you just kind of level your characters and stuff. But that's why I like it. I don't want to have to learn shitloads of items in League of Legends or any of these other games. Also, like Pokemon. Speaking of Heroes of the Storm, the only 2 MOBAs I've ever enjoyed were Heroes of the Storm and Pokemon Unite. Oh, actually, Smite too. I like Smite, but Smite reviewed well. So yeah, Heroes of the Storm is mine. If you're in chat, drop some of your suggestions of games that everyone else hated that you loved. Elijah Vasquez says Sonic 2006. Gunstar says Gears Pop. We've got Elijah says my friend loved Evolve. Did you guys play Evolve at all? Did you ever?
I did 20 minutes of the demo and I'm like, nope. And then it got like, and then I started to hear about the impressions and everyone was like, oh, it's really bad. I'm like, well, I didn't like the demo, so I guess I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
I never did buy that game.
You
You guys remember Brink? You guys remember Brink on
Brink.
360?
Brink? Yeah.
It was super,
So
like everyone was so
hyped,
excited.
hyped.
Oh, the Team Fortress guys, splash damage and
Yeah, it was super hyped, that game, and it just sort of vanished.
It's bad.
It kind of reminds me of Wet. Did you ever play that Bethesda game?
I never played that one, but people
No.
swear by it that it's still a banger.
Yeah, so it's like a cult.
Slickback says Mass Effect Andromeda. I liked Mass Effect Andromeda for quite a while, but then after you're done, you're like, gosh, that wasn't a Mass Effect game.
Man, like Mass Effect Andromeda's, that's one game I would also pick. Game that I liked that everyone else hated. And it's funny because I reviewed that game and I think I gave it 7 out of 10. So like I contributed to its low review score on Metacritic. That being said, I put like 150 hours into it, start to finish, and I uncovered every part of the map because it's Mass Effect and I love it. And I didn't hate it. It was just like, it was just not good enough. It wasn't true Mass Effect to me. But like at the end of the game, I was sort of like I was intrigued because it sort of leaves you on a cliffhanger, and it's obvious there's going to be a DLC, and then they cancelled the DLC. So like,
I forgot they did that.
yeah. So you'll never find out. I mean, I think they
Rand,
released
did you
a book.
play Andromeda?
They released a book.
I did not play Andromeda. No.
There's so
played-
weird. There's a lot of
I
big
played the
games. Rand
multiplayer.
missed that.
I played the multiplayer of
yeah.
Andromeda because
It's
my
horrible.
buddies were all doing it. We were doing the multiplayer, and I got all the achievements for the multiplayer. But then I never played the single player.
Man,
So
it
I
wasn't-
mean,
it
apparently I
wasn't
didn't
awful.
miss much because people didn't like that game.
I-
And
Yeah,
had
and
a lot
even the
of bugs at
multiplayer
launch.
wasn't very good.
The best part of
compared
Andromeda,
to 3.
for me, the best part of Andromeda was the combat. The combat was really
Yes.
good. Like the jetpacks and
Yep.
shit were great. Felt really
The
great. to play.
movement, the variation of guns, the gunplay,
the
of course.
the combos, the biotic combos were sick.
Mm-hmm.
It was really fun in motion. It was just like they stripped out all the RPG, so it was like your decisions don't matter really. You know, the side quests were terrible. You know, it
Dialogue was
felt,
bad.
the dialogue was bad.
Characters were bad.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
the funny
yeah.
thing, Jez, is you and I played, over 100 hours of Andromeda, but someone could ask me, what were the name of your crew members? I don't remember any of them except for PB because the name was so ridiculous. You
Dude.
got this Asari that wasn't a goddess. She was like an everyday nerdy girl, and she was like the comic relief, and her name was PB. I'm like, that's not very I don't need characters to be quote unquote sexy, but an Asari is supposed to be like very elegant and goddess like, and she was like, hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the Mass Effect Andromeda show with your host Jez Corden.
Dude, you hit the nail right on the head though, because I was sitting there, I couldn't even remember PB's name, and admittedly my memory is not the best.
The only one I know.
But I can't remember any of them. I remember that. Oh, it began with a J. That new alien guy. I can't remember his name.
It's like
Jaden or something.
Jackster or Jager or something like
something
that.
like that.
Help us out, chat.
Yeah. I don't remember, but
What Slick says the Krogan was bad A, but the whole time I kept thinking you're not Rex, and I'm not gonna like you.
Jared. Was he
Well, he's
Jared?
close. He's
something like
yeah,
that.
something like that. Yeah, it was like Jerix or something.
Yeah.
Javik.
Javik.
I think,
Yeah.
I think
Javik was.
that's how memorable they were. Yes.
Yeah.
What's that guy? Javi, Javelin, Javelier, Jez. That's his name, Jez.
Well, we are going back to like 2017 here, right? That came out in 2017, right? If I remember right.
Yeah. But I mean, even after the game was done, I couldn't. Yeah.
I got
I'm
high
sorry,
hopes.
Rand.
No, it's fine.
I've got
I mean,
high
I would
hopes for
like
the
you to
next one.
play
This
it.
is your,
It does-
this
it's
is
like-
your show after all, so
Yeah, it's the Colt Eastwood show this week. I am hopeful for Mass Effect. What are they going to call it? 4? Mass Effect 4, I guess.
Mass Effect.
I think
4?
they are.
Yeah,
I think they are actually.
I'm hopeful for that. I think.
I
like,
mean, if they
EA's learned
really
its
want to
lesson.
get like fans back on their side, doing a sequel is kind of.
They
like
can't
the way
call
to
it
go.
Mass Effect SpaceX or.
I mean, it looks like it's gonna be a direct sequel, doesn't it?
Yeah,
they have-
Liara was confirmed, right?
So, I
Liara
mean,
was
like,
confirmed.
if that's the case, they might get people to come back from
Yeah.
like the people like me, right? Like me and Colt Eastwood spent hundreds of hours of playing Mass Effect Legendary Edition last year. In fact, I think that was my most played game last year. Put like
that
over
was my
100
game of the year
hours
last year.
replaying Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. And it might just be like, man, with Andromeda, it was kind of like, because it was with Mass Effect, it was like, it's about my Shepard and was my journey,
Mhm.
right? And then the journey was over. So, but then it's like, oh, but if the video game industry can't leave, any good thing to just end, it's like, here's Mass Effect Andromeda, and not even like the same team that's making it's like some new team that was only making DLCs, and they completely ruined it. So it's like, I really was like, whatever. But then, like, if you're putting the main Bioware team on there, and if they're looking for redemption after Anthem,
Well, I mean, though, most
right?
of those people are gone is the
right,
problem.
sure, but it's like,
but you have to go back to how amazing the trilogy was. And when you and I played it last year, almost every moment of that 150-hour journey held up. Like, this stood the test of time.
yeah, I mean, the
the
first game was a little wonky in spots, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
kind of
But
how it was in 2007. But
I will
yeah,
say
07 is quite.
Sorry, go on.
What's that?
I was just gonna say that I will say, like, I know someone who's pretty clued up on what they're doing with Dragon Age 4 and Mass Effect 4, and the things they're telling me is filling me with optimism, and I'm someone who's generally quite pessimistic. So right now, based on what I'm hearing, EA might have learned its lesson, hopefully. So
Oh yeah, after Anthem and Andromeda, I hope, and Battlefield 2042. I hope they learned some lessons.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a quick idea about Mass Effect that I've wanted for quite a while. I'm gonna run it by you guys. If you're really keyed into the Mass Effect trilogy, you know that the Krogan voices are. This will make sense in a second. The Krogan voices is a voice actor, and they pitched him down. Oh my gosh, the Quarian voice has been kind of doubled, and then there's the voice. They use set voice effects, post-processing effects on different races in the game for the creatures, and I think the Mass Effect 4 game should let you choose what race you want to play as a humanoid character. Like if they had like 5 to choose from, you could start as an Asari or a Krogan or a Quarian or a oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the name of what Garrus was. And they just use like a post-processing thing. You can pitch your voice up and down whether you choose male or female. They did this way back in 2000 on the Jedi Knight Academy game. Do you guys?
Oh yeah.
You really old school gamers know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
You remember, Jez, where you got to choose like a human, a female, a male, or a male or female alien character or whatever, and then they changed the voice.
They actually do that in Star Wars: The Old Republic, the MMO as well. So it's not.
Okay.
That's a BioWare
Turian,
game.
thank you.
So it's Star Wars: The Old Republic is probably BioWare's most successful current game, hilariously. So it's not unprecedented to think like they might adopt that. But they even do it to some degree in Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, because if you enable your helmet, it adds post-processing as if you're talking through a muffled helmet, right?
Yep, it does.
So and some helmets have different voice effects, if I remember correctly. But yeah, that's the Mass Effect Andromeda podcast now. But yeah.
I do got a quick question, and this kind of relates to our first topic that was about the Sony CMA stuff. One of the documents has said that that the PS6 wouldn't be ready until a redacted date, sometime after 2027.
Oh my gosh!
What year do you think the PS6 and the Xbox Series XXX is angling for release? Sony mentioned in their document that, they mentioned 2027, and then they said the PS6 wouldn't be out until, and they redacted the info because they talked about how it was Microsoft's 3-year, thing for Call of Duty was inadequate. And so, like, I think we've talked about this before, Colt, but knowing that Sony says, it would take it up to 2027 and new consoles wouldn't be out yet, and that the next console is planning to come out at a redacted date, what year do you think that is?
28.
28? 2028?
Yeah, I think so. That's my best educated guess.
That's the number I had in my head too, 28. What do you think, Rand? Do you think differently?
It's 8 years.
Everyone's like, oh, the Xbox 360 generation was too long. It's like, well, now that you don't have like a bottleneck console, I think you can go 8 years again.
The Series S is going to hold everything back, though. What are you talking about?
Oh, this isn't the Zocker podcast. This is the Colt. This is the Colt guest show.
Hang on.
Yeah, I mean, 28 sounds about right. It's 1 year longer.
Is that
than
what you're thinking?
Well, it's 1 year longer than last gen, right? The Xbox One, PS4. It's also essentially.
Was it 7 years?
2013 to 2020. Yeah, that's 7 years.
Huh.
And then 360 was on the market for 8 before the Xbox One came, but the PS3 and was on the market for 7 because they were a year later.
Yeah, so Dev said that the 360 era was too long, but I think them saying it was too long was because of the difficulties they had with the hardware.
So 8 years seems about right. So with that said, Colt Eastwood, prediction time on the show. Do you feel that a PS5 Pro and an Xbox Series X squared model a mid-gen refresh are in the cards, now that we sort of know 2028 or 2029 is when new consoles will come out, like the next gen, do you feel that Sony and Microsoft will angle for a mid-gen refresh in 2024 or 2025 to bide the time? Or are they going to ride out this entire gen with the console that's going to hold everybody back, the Series S? Or what's your thoughts on that?
My prediction has changed, but my prediction that Phil said we're not doing a mid-gen refresh this console generation. My prediction is that they have already said that they're working on the next Xbox consoles. He said that at the media briefing a year ago that you and I and Jez got, that we weren't allowed to post publicly. He said they were already working on the new consoles, and we've heard so many things that point to PlayStation putting out a PS5 Slim or a PS5 Pro. We've heard that so many times, but we haven't really heard that definitively about Xbox from like inside or developers or whoever. Like I've heard more about the PlayStation mid-gen is what I'm saying. And I think if it comes to that and it seems like a PS5 Pro is coming, that Xbox will absolutely take the work they've been doing, the R&D into their console, and they'll truncate it and come up with a 2025 mid-gen console to go alongside the PS5 Pro.
Interesting.
So I think it's really super possible.
Because I remember when this gen started, Jez was very much of the opinion no mid-gen refreshes. But recently, you've been very much of the opinion there are going to be mid-gen refreshes, right?
Why is that, Jez? Tell us why.
Well, the reason why I didn't think there'd be... Wait, what was that?
What was what?
I just heard a noise. That was weird. The reason I didn't think...
It might have been a static electricity in my mini fridge.
No, it was like
It probably went through my mic.
No, it was like a notification on my computer somewhere. I was just wondering if I got like an important work message or something, but I don't know. That was weird.
It's Microsoft. Redact.
Yeah, Microsoft hacking my telemetry. But the reason I've been changing my opinion on getting a mid-gen refresh is like the reason I thought that we wouldn't have a mid-gen refresh is because I thought the chip shortage was going to play out a lot longer than it did.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think Biden, how do you say his name? I always forget. Biden, right?
Biden doesn't matter. He
Biden.
won't be here forever.
Yeah, he's getting on a bit. He's a pretty old guy.
No, I mean, yeah. I mean, there'll be another one along the way. But go ahead.
Yeah, but I mean, with regards to him, is that he enacted this CHIPS Act thing, which seeks to subsidize microprocessor fabrication in America and in Europe a little bit as well, I think. And also it seeks to restrict what American companies can do in China with regards to American patented chip technology. So this is gonna like change the game a little bit with regards to chip shortages and things like that. Like I didn't see that coming down the pipeline. I didn't see Intel spending however many billions of dollars setting up fabrication plants in the West, which, it'll take a while, but it should start to offset some of these chip bottlenecks we've had. But not only that, is that chip and GPU advancements have been sort of ratcheting up, and you've got Intel making GPUs now, and you've got AMD and Nvidia. Like, it felt like for a while we were sort of having these like incremental GPU upgrades, and then like the RTX 4090 is like ridiculously more powerful than last gen. It's also ridiculously more expensive than last gen, and also ridiculously larger than last gen. Like I'm thinking, like, what's the 5090 gonna look like? You're gonna need your own personal power plant to run that thing. But yeah, so
Fusion powered.
Yeah, it's fusion powered graphics processing units, but it's kind of getting to that point where like already the Xbox Series X is struggling. We've got Evil West gameplay running on the screen right now, and it's like, oh well, we did have, but it just cut off. I need to stick that on repeat, I think. Do I? Yeah.
Yeah, it just stopped.
It just stopped. Oh, great. How do I just hang on a sec? Sorry, guys. I think
you have to hit that play button again on there.
How do you do it? How do you do it? Loop. Okay, loop. There we go. Loop.
You didn't loop it?
No, I didn't loop it. Sorry. Okay.
Oh my God. Amateur over
amateur.
here, Colt.
Yeah, I'm
amateur.
I'm amateur. Okay. Sorry, guys. But anyway, what was I saying? Yeah. So the advancements that we've been seeing in graphics processing units has already started to make Xbox and PlayStation look outdated. Like me and Colt and Nick from Xbox here, we're going back and forth about what's better, 30 FPS 4K or 60 FPS 1080p for Evil West. Which
60
is,
FPS all day, every day.
No.
Well, here's the thing, Jez. I don't want to get into that technical discussion too long, but Digital Foundry said this as well, that the resolution is not going to matter when a game comes out. This is a cross-gen game, so what they do is they just kind of port their way up the console, the SKUs, right? They get the thing running on Xbox One, and then they're like boosted up to Xbox One X, and then they're like, okay, here's the Series S and X versions, and they ship it. Does it look good? Yep, ship it. And I don't think they're lazy. That's a lot of work to work with freaking 5 platforms. But anyway, this whole 1080p thing, when you get a fully native, like next gen only, we're still saying this 2 years in, they're going to use upscaling techniques where they're going to say, hey, this one runs at 1080p 60, but Digital Foundry is going to look at this and go, look, they're using this processing, and it doesn't look 1080p. It looks much better. And I think that conversation will finally fizzle away, but I think you still have to say the target is 1080p because that's the native resolution output that they're buffering out, and then they use FSR and other kinds of things like that. So we have a ways to go, but here's a weird curveball, Rand, that I have to ask you, and see if you can remember. About a year or so ago, I thought Phil Spencer was talking about how eventually consoles and gaming will get to be like a phone, where every couple of years you get the new and better version. Do you remember that conversation?
He mentioned something like that, and like people thought like there would just be every 2 or 3 years there would just be a new console release from PlayStation and Microsoft and Nintendo, like there is, not in the same cadence as phones, but in a similar way.
You use those words, not on the same cadence, right? Because R&D is super expensive if you wanted to make a new console every 3 years, but
yeah,
can you do it every 5 years and justify it? Because people will line up and buy them, right?
Yeah, I mean,
it's kind of getting like it's almost silly, because like we're sitting here discussing the merits of doing like a console launch every couple of years, while phone manufacturers are laughing at us.
Now, $1,000.
Yeah,
right.
Apple and Samsung are literally sitting here laughing at console and game journalists and stuff, decrying the very how very dare they consider making
the
a console.
GPUs, right? Every 2 years there's a new GPU generation. The GPU alone for the mid-range GPU costs as much as a PlayStation or an Xbox console at launch, right?
Yeah.
So like the audacity.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, it's almost like people are just sort of thinking about it with a almost traditionalist mindset. It's like we shouldn't have a annual console because it's not the done thing, and it's kind of like, well, Apple does it, Samsung does it. Samsung has 2 phone launch periods a year. They're literally gonna.
Oh my gosh!
They're gonna release the S23 in January and the Fold 4.
The difference when you say traditionalists, like when we talk about traditionally, we're like, you can't force people to buy a new console, okay? Because you don't force people to buy a new GPU, right?
No.
The difference is now we're in this situation, thankfully, as we got into the Series and PS5 and a little bit midway through the last generation, where you could put out a new console and all your games came forward with you. That was a new concept like 4 or 5 years ago, right, Rand? It was a new concept where it's like, oh, you want a new console? Look, your controllers still work, your games still work. So you can, it comes with one controller. You already own 3, so you're good to hang out with your buddies. All the games you already own, they're coming forward. This is a new concept for consoles, but it wasn't with phones. All the apps worked, all the purchases you made. Same thing with GPUs.
Yeah, everybody was like, with the 360 gen, nothing was back compat, although Xbox. Yeah, Xbox tried. They had limited a back compat with the OG Xbox, and then PlayStation 3 had full back compat, but on just the original
first
editions
model
of the PlayStations, and then they got rid of it. So it was like everybody kind of braced themselves, being like, "Oh well, no more back compat." And then Microsoft stunned everybody when they did back compat with the Xbox One, and then here we are. But it was mostly because of the architecture. Like they were doing, like,
Yep.
360 was Power PC, the PS3 was the Cell, and then they went to Xbox One, PS4, and it was both x86, and then Series X and PS5 are x86, so it's easier to do that sort of thing. So, yeah, but I kind of want to get your thought on what I was joking about before, the little man, as Cognito and King and everybody at the ILP talks about. Holding the gen back. There was those devs that kind of mentioned that, and then Digital Foundry talked about it, and now you have Microsoft selling it. I saw Brad Sams put out a video basically like Microsoft must be losing a shit ton of money, right, Jez? Like they're selling the Series S with a wireless headset, the Xbox wireless headset, for $250.
Yeah.
And they're dropping prices all over. I think in the UK it's down to like £189 or whatever.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thought? Because I don't have a Series S, so it's really tough for me to really talk about it. But you do. You have a Series S, Colt. So what do you think about the talking points of the Series S and how Microsoft is trying to push it this holiday?
Well, first of all, for those of you who don't have a Series S, it's a little miracle. It's amazing. It's nearly the size of a tissue box. It's super compact and it's so heavy. I picked one up to take a picture of it the other day to make a meme of a Garbage Pail Kid. The thing was like, when I was taking the picture, my arm was hurting. The thing's so heavy, it's so small. The thing runs most games at 60. We're seeing some cross-gen games that get the Xbox One S treatment. They basically like give them the One S version. There's like a problem with the XDK, I think, or it's a shortcoming of the SDK for the development where the Series S often gets the Xbox One version instead of an Xbox One X boosted. So they should have done that better. But the thing's really incredible, and it's fully RDNA to James Strand. Do you know who this guy is? I don't know if I could find this in time, but he corrected me about the power of the Series S, which is really worth reading. If I can, James Standard. I'm sorry. Let me see if I can find this without wasting too much of your time. Here it is. He says he's replied on a few of my tweets here. Because somebody asked me legitimately, is the Series S better than the Xbox One X? Like we hear this a lot, right, Jez? Like people always say the Xbox One X is way more powerful than the Series S. Darn, where is that? I said it's got a 2 times faster CPU. James Stannard, who works at the Xbox hardware team, said that it is 3 times. He works at graphics R&D for Microsoft Xbox. He said it is 3 times the CPU power, and the GPU is more powerful than the One X, and it's got the SSD and the. He didn't write all this out, but he said the SSD, but he's referring to the input-output bandwidth of transferring data through games is so much faster, even though it has a smaller RAM pool. So, because I said in every aspect, the Series S is better than the One X. But one of its holdbacks is like the back compat games get the One S version instead of the One X. So, it's really an incredible console, and it is not. Digital Foundry said that the Series S, if anything, is being held back. Because developers need to take better advantage of that super fast processor in it. It's got 8 cores, 16 threads, just simultaneous multi-threading. So it's got all this ability to take on all these instructions for games that are normally built that are GPU bound. Because last generation, when we talk about those old consoles, like you couldn't get 60 frames on a lot of games. So they would put everything intensive on the GPU, and now they should be look at the hardware we have on PC and consoles right now. We can put a bunch of work on the processor instead of offloading it all on the GPU and making it do all the work and all the processing. So we have a long ways to go this generation, and people who don't understand the tech or haven't listened to all of the developers and experts, because I don't understand all the tech, but I've listened to tons of people. I've made videos on it. Like Grant doesn't like to make videos on the tech because he doesn't want to dive into that stuff, but I've listened enough where I understand the Series S is going to go through the whole entire generation. It's not going to get dropped. People just are kind of out of their minds, I suppose.
I think we are gradually seeing the Series S being leveraged better and better and better. Like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 goes up to 120.
Cyberpunk.
Yeah, Cyberpunk and Call of Duty goes up to 120 frames per second, which is, obviously what you want, out of those consoles. Like one of my most popular articles on Windows Central, which gets like daily Google traffic, I'm talking hundreds of thousands of views here, is that
Jeez.
yeah, it's is the Xbox Series S better than the Xbox One X? Because a lot of people are
Oh,
looking,
really?
Yeah. A lot of people are looking to upgrade. They're trying to figure out like should I upgrade my my older console, because it's not totally clear. It's not totally clear because the Series S is the cheaper one and my One X costs this much money, but it is pound for pound better than the One X at this point, I would say. And it's only going to get better and more impressive as we get deeper into the gen. I mean, at the end of the day, you can play Monster Hunter on Xbox One X of 4K 30, but you can play it at 60 frames per second at 1080p, which, for a game like Monster Hunter, it's just way better. And also, you get like seconds.
Have you done that on the Series S? Because on the One X, you could play at 1080p 60, but the frame rate was all over the board on the One X.
Yeah,
How's it on the Series S?
It's good because, like, I mean, well, this is one of the problems with the Series S. The Series S, with regards to backwards compatible games, it uses I was going to say the 360 version. Then it uses the Xbox One S version of the game. But in some games, like Monster Hunter, which has an unlocked frame rate, it does bring all those benefits forward. So you don't have to worry about that stuff. So there are some pros and cons, especially with regards to backwards compatibility. But as we get deeper into the gen, backwards compatibility matters less and less and less.
That's actually that's a super good point that I hate when people say that. That's actually a really good point for once, Jez. No, you made a really good point. How
it never makes any good points during 4 hour
I hate it when people say it. They don't realize they're kind of insulting you when they say that. When you say the unlocked frame rate, when I was talking about how amazing that processor is in the Series S, it's the identical one in the Series X, and I always have to enunciate that on voice only. And it's really close, it's slightly faster than the one on the PS5. So you got this great processor, and if devs finally get away from that, we got to offload to the GPU. The other thing they need to do, like they do with PC, is say, hey, let's unlock the frame rate. We already know we're going to be able to get the frames. We just need to do the optimization. And a game like Monster Hunter, and there's a couple other games like Infamous Second Son, had an unlocked frame rate on the PS4, but you couldn't get 60 unless you had the PS4 Pro, and then it was really wavering. But then when you get the PS5 version, it just automatically runs at 60, no problem, because that frame rate's unlocked. There's plenty of overhead, and so it runs really fast. But for 12 years, developers couldn't they couldn't do that with confidence on a console, because the console would drop frames. And I don't blame developers saying, I don't want to ship it this way. It runs at 60 a lot, but it drops really bad in certain areas. I don't want to ship it that way. Lock it to 30. And then there comes the filmic discussion from Jez.
Yeah, it's...
EFA Spartan says, I'm confused, Colt, what you mean. Single thread actually means different games play faster for very few. I don't understand the multi-threading thing, simultaneous multi-threading. You could...
Me neither.
Games have to be built to use simultaneous multi-threading. Some games use only 2 cores. Some games will use 4 cores. There's a lot the developers have to do on stuff that we don't even see when we pick up a controller. It's all part of how they code games, and it's above my pay grade.
Yeah, it's well above my pay grade. We have people on Windows Central who know that stuff, so I don't have to learn it. But
do we have another question for Colt Eastwood from the Patreon?
Yeah,
bro?
we do. Yeah. I'll pull that up for right now. But I just want to say, like, one of the things I heard about World of Warcraft as the reason why they couldn't bring it to Xbox was because the entire World of Warcraft engine runs on a single core. And,
there you go.
So
yeah,
so it's a little.
You can't even load it up on a PC. You can't just install it and play it. It won't play, right?
This is me every time Jez brings up World of Warcraft.
Yeah, but it's interesting. It runs on a single
Jez
core.
Is right.
That's cool.
I was going to start this video game series on my channel where I play and review a really old game that is like really great that people forgotten about. And so I installed the Saboteur. Hands up if you enjoyed the Saboteur.
I was going to bring that up
hands up.
earlier when I
my
mentioned.
It's so great, and it's on Game Pass. I would have bought it because it's like a $7 or $9 game, but it's on Game Pass. I installed it on my PC and it won't launch. And I asked Zocker87, I'm like, "What's going on?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, that game runs on 2 cores, so you have to like Windows VM to like an older version to only run at 2 cores, and you have to do that every time you launch the game." And I'm like, "Never mind." I'm like, "Nope." Because I've got like this huge PC over here, and I'm like, I'm not going to like modify things to try one game, and those, I don't know. That's just the problems you run into for old stuff.
I was trying to run. What was I trying to run now? Have you ever played Realms of the Haunting? Really old PC game. That's why it's like it's like an OG survival horror game. Like it predates Resident Evil, I think. It's like a first-person survival horror game. It's really good, with full motion video cutscenes as well. Maybe it doesn't predate Resident Evil. I don't know. But it's a survival horror game, and I was trying to run it, but I came up against similar issues where it's like you gotta like emulate a single core or some crap, and I was like, no.
Well, you go into forums and you get lost just trying to find the right answer that may take you 2 days to get it to work right, and I just kind of throw my hands up and go, "Look, I'll just load up a game, something else. So it's not worth it."
Some games run in DOSBox and stuff like that, but most of the time I just can't be bothered. But let's grab another question out of Patreon. We only have 3 this week, so this is from C Money, and C Money asks, Colt, if the acquisition of Activision falls through for whatever reason, do you think that would impact Microsoft's existing relationship with PlayStation? Could Microsoft try to get revenge for the messing up the
What
deal?
relationship?
Well, I suppose he's talking about. Well, I suppose
I'm just kidding.
He says, personally, I want to see what a gloves off Microsoft looks like, regardless of the outcome. So I guess what he's getting at is like Minecraft Dungeons, Minecraft Legends, Fallout 76, like those games that are still supported on PlayStation. Could we see Microsoft sort of start, dropping money on Square Enix to pull Final Fantasy away from PlayStation, or trying to basically, could we see Microsoft behave more like Sony if this all falls through?
I think 100% no. I don't think they're interested in doing that at all. And they're way too nice. It drives me crazy. Like, if this happened to me, I'd go scorched earth and I would go buy up stuff. But we've heard Phil say he doesn't want to buy into other people's franchises. They're not actively looking for that. Something like Indiana Jones was pre-existing, so they're going to work through that. As far as, like, we sit here today and think Elder Scrolls 6, like, I hope it's exclusive. I guess for the sake of arguments and for the sake of being right, I hope that's exclusive. But if they said, oh, by the way, Elder Scrolls 6, we're going to make that multi-platform, we'd be like, and you did, right? That's kind of how I'm sitting with that. And if the deal falls through, like we said earlier in the show, I really think PlayStation's banking on that Microsoft's wallet will be super gun shy to crack open, because why spend all this time and money and putting your face in the mud of trying to buy something when Sony can flex their muscles? Not only are they the market leader, but they're also the first to run to the playground teacher and say, he hit me. And they're like, what happened, honey? What happened? He pulled my hair. Who did? Phil Spencer. And it's the situation that I think that Xbox and their and the Microsoft attorneys have to deal with, is that PlayStation cried foul first, and they're on the defensive when they're trying to buy something that it's a big acquisition. To answer your question, I think they're not going to be more aggressive, and they really are long overdue to be very aggressive. And they've spent so much money and invested so much into this platform. When Satya says I'm all in gaming, he's like, he folds his folds his leg over his knee and goes, let us compete. He's like, we're super nice. Just, let us compete. We would love to compete in this space. Please let us do it. Instead of saying, gosh dang it, we want to buy stuff. We want to provide a big value for our platform. We're building this massive place where everyone can play except for PlayStation, and just let us compete. And it bothers me. I know maybe some of that may be console war-ish to say it bothers me that they're not aggressive, but PlayStation's super aggressive and egregious. We haven't seen Final Fantasy Remake 7, partially I think because the full package isn't released yet. Once that's released, we'll wait 2 years after that for my prediction, right? PlayStation doesn't care. It doesn't look bad to them when they buy up everything. But when Xbox buys up everything, I had that argument this morning. Well, Microsoft just goes and buys everything. I'm like, you know that PlayStation has more paid for third-party games from studios and IPs they don't own than Xbox ever does with this Activision Blizzard and Bethesda thing. So, I mean, it's hypocrisy. I'm sorry. I gave a speech there. I apologize.
No,
Rand, please cleanse the palate.
There's no other, there's no other way to say it. It is hypocrisy, right? But Rand, can you cleanse our palate, Rand? Can you?
I don't know. Can we? Can I?
Are you mad?
Cleanse the palate by telling us how long you've lasted against the Reaper and
bro,
Vampire Survivors.
dude, the Vampire Survivors, that Reaper comes out and I just instantly die. Like, what's the point, Jez?
What, you gotta tell us how long you've lasted.
Point?
What's your
like
record?
3 seconds? I don't know. It's like, what the hell? Jez, have you beaten the Reaper yet in Vampire Survivors?
No. You have to get some special item, I think, to fight the Reaper. I think. I'm not sure.
One of those things where you probably get all the the game is getting all the achievements, so you can unlock like the
It might be
the
super items, so you can get to the Reaper.
Speaking about achievements, and this is maybe more of a Friday topic, but did you see that Sony have banned shovelware and games that are just for trophies?
I saw that.
Yep, saw that. Good for them. And when you mention that to Xbox, they're like, huh? What? You could.
We have a couple of friends who do that on Xbox. They'll play like Mushroom Kingdom and Butterfly Simulator, and then they'll play a bunch of AAA games to bury it on the list. We're like, we see you.
We want to get that 5,000 gamer score real quick, so you can be like, I got a bunch of gamer score this month. You played one game, you know, that had a whole bunch. I
got legit street cred over here, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they'll put you're gonna play Barbie. Yeah, well, Barbie took 7 hours to get 1,000 gamer score in back in the day when gamer score was tough to get. Not like it's handed out like candy like now, and it's even more meaningless than it used to be. Right?
So are you telling me that Barbie is more hardcore than people think?
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah, bro, it totally is.
Colt. What were some of the achievements? Oh, sorry.
I mean, I don't remember. Well, I was, we got the VGAs, we got the Game Awards coming up, right?
The Keeglies.
The Keigleys.
Keeglies, as Tim calls it.
I got two questions for you.
Okay.
What do you think? Well, technically 3, I guess.
Whoa.
Me and Jez answered this last week, so our predictions are there on the show. What do you think is going to win the Game Awards? So what do you think, who's going to win the voting? Right now, as of November 23rd, what is your personal game of the year? And
oh my gosh,
do you think Xbox will have something to show at the Game Awards? And Xbox could include Bethesda.
Okay. The first question is, what do I think will get the overall Game of the Year award from the critics?
Who's Keeley gonna, open up that envelope and be like, and the winner is
Elden Ring.
Yeah,
I think so. There's been some interesting critique. There's been some interesting critique from God of War Ragnarok from the actual fans playing it. Where it's super great, but it's not perfect. But one thing I'm not hearing, and I love Ragnarok. I'm like halfway through it. It's just quality. It has some pacing issues, but the one thing I don't hear is, oh my gosh, this game is blowing my mind every hour I play it. Like I heard for like 2 months with Elden Ring. So I think if recency bias doesn't, take over where it's like, well, it's been a while since I played Elden Ring, so I don't know how much I loved it. But we all have to remember that we were just blown away at every new area or every new encounter with the way that game just opened up organically and, affected us as gaming fans. Like, oh, I thought I knew Dark Souls, and this kind of turned it on its head in its own way. And I think that's where it'll win Game of the Year. What the second question is?
What is your personal Game of the Year?
With full conviction, it is Grounded. 400 hours. bonded amazingly with my 2 kids playing that game night after night. It's just a special game. It feels great. It looks amazing. You just get so much immersion. It's very deep in so many ways, which you learned as we played together. And the little story it told is just really cool. And like I kind of teared up at the end because we rolled the credits and it kind of closed up, and I was on the headset with my kids in the house, and I thought, wow, that was such a great experience that when it was shown in 2019, I thought it was an absolute joke. And I know that that if that gets back to Obsidian Grounded, that it sounds offensive. I kind of said it to him a nicer way on the show. Like when I saw it, I was like, what is this? But I was like, what is this? Well, Xbox doesn't need this. They need something like that, not like this, right? That was kind of like our gut reaction, our knee-jerk reaction. The game won me over so many ways that I just can't sit here and say that it is not my game of the year. It absolutely is. I can't apologize. I
mean,
suppose.
I had a great time. I had a great time playing Grounded with you. Me and Colt, we spent like 50 hours playing that game together, having a great time.
Yeah, it was really good, man.
So me and you are both saying Elden Ring is going to win. Jez thinks it's going to be God of War Ragnarok, even though Jez sends me tweets of people who aren't enjoying God of War Ragnarok like it's supposed to mean something to me.
Well, I think, Jez, are you trying to say you think there's going to be a little bit of like the jury's a little bit biased towards one way, or they think some certain amount of level of production and voice acting and motion capture deserves a certain thing? I don't want to, because I'm never going to blame somebody for saying like it's a Sony thing or it's a PlayStation thing, but God of War Ragnarok does something with these amazing voice actors and motion capture actors and actresses that just demands a level of respect that you don't get in Elden Ring, right?
I think hang on. Can you repeat that last bit?
Like you don't think it's going to be Ragnarok because there's a bias for PlayStation.
No.
You think Ragnarok deserves it because it has this production value, actors and actresses that poured their guts into, and the level of attention to detail, like all of that just made a great package.
No, I send Rand those tweets because I want him to know that maybe he just has bad taste in games. I don't know.
Oh, what? But he loved Ragnarok.
That's my point. What?
Oh!
Rand's just like,
Oh my gosh, I can see his face right now in my mind's eye.
I mean, I think Rand, I know the tweet Rand's talking about. It was a tweet where someone was saying that God of War feels like a slog. And, and that kind of reminded me of all the walking simulators that Rand really likes. I don't know. I haven't played God of War Ragnarok, so I can't really comment, And but God of War, the other one, is all right. I guess it's pretty good.
All right, you said it was a masterpiece. How do you go from being a masterpiece to just being all right?
Nah, it is kind of a masterpiece, if for no reason other than that big lizard guy. I really like him, but I don't think there's bias around God of War. Maybe a little bit, a tiny bit, but not enough that it's sort of affects
not enough.
things.
Yeah,
it's these games are just sort of like, they're obviously big achievements, and I think like a lot of game journalism is sort of like riffing on movie journalism, where because game journalists don't really understand or don't really have the time to fully understand or even appreciate the technicalities that goes into a game that feels great but isn't necessarily cinematic, like a Forza or something like that. Which is why, like, I don't think Forza will ever win Game of the Year, because it's not cinematic enough. It's not Oscars-like enough. And
that's what I was gonna say. Yeah. Do you think they kind of get this high? I don't want to sound negative, but you have to give it some level of respect. Like, look at what the achievement of cinematography and pushing the industry forward to make stuff that just looks next level. That's kind of they were talking about on Gaz's podcast with ACG. ACG was giving this speech about how there's no transparency in what the criteria is, and it would be okay if Jeff Keighley said, look, here's the 5 categories that they use to pick or justify why they voted Game of the Year. Maybe that would help. Like, it has to, the visuals have to blow you away. The gameplay has to feel great. The story has to move you. The music has to be memorable. And the replayability has to be great. Like, those are good criteria, I think.
It's really hard because, there are thousands of games released every year, and maybe dozens of games that probably should be considered. And the average game journalist doesn't have time to play
Mm-hmm.
everything. And you kind of like, then you're talking about like, okay, well, if we're going to do this properly, we need to have game journalists whose sole job is to analyze games, but there's no money in it. There is no money in it. Until the game industry actually supports game journalism like the tech industry does. The tech industry supports tech journalism by, you know, they license quotes and review scores. The game industry doesn't, you know. So like it can pay well to review a tech product, you know, and stuff like that, because you get affiliate revenue and stuff like that. You don't get affiliate revenue on Steam. Steam doesn't give you a penny, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
for me to review a PC game, there's literally no money in it. Zero money. But if I review a headset, yeah, there's money in it, because
Oh, interesting.
yeah, I get affiliate.
I mean,
revenue
definitely
from
the
Amazon.
game. There could be a game that looks and plays and feels amazing that nobody's talking about. I would not expect that game to get entered into the Game of the Year nomination, and it's another reason why I never like jumped up and said, "Why didn't Grounded get nominated?" And I'm like, I'm smart enough, believe it or not, to know that Grounded wasn't talked about enough. It was played by 13 million people, but it, like Stray, I feel, got talked about as much the same this year, which is not very much. Everyone's talking about a lot of other games. So when you pick games, like if you're going to say what's the top 10 song of 2022, you have to pick from 20 songs that people know of. You can't pick one song. It's like, oh, the composition is just amazing from this one musician you've never heard of, because then people are like, well, how did that get in there? I've never even heard of it. And so it doesn't really count. That matters as well, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Like it has to be popular enough.
Yeah, it's complicated, you know. And I don't envy his position, you know, Jeff Keighley, and trying to figure out a way that actually makes this journalistically integral. But at the same time, it's like there's just no money in it. There's really no money. There's no business model that exists today that's just game reviews. There's some YouTubers that can make money doing game reviews, and just because that's all they do. But that only works if you're an individual. You know, if you're like a company or whatever, you can't really make money on game reviews. It's something you do as a hobby on the side. You know, there's pretty much only IGN can make money doing game reviews. Like, there's no money in it for practically anyone else but a handful of YouTubers. And,
like Skill Up and
yeah,
people like
stuff
that
like
that are
that.
really big and it's their niche. Yeah.
And
Yeah, I definitely can't.
Yeah,
I remember I
we know.
reviewed Halo Infinite's campaign, and it was like one of the lowest viewed videos I had in the entire year. I was like, this is one of the biggest games, but there's a lot of different variables that go in there.
yeah, it's really
but
tough.
I also don't-
And the game industry, if they want better journalism, they want better award shows, they should support better journalism by paying people's bills a little bit, you know. And then you get sort of murky ethical territory there. But that's why we have a sales team and a licensing team that's completely separate from editorial. So like the editorial team, we write whatever we want. You know, if a headset's crap, I'll say it's crap, and there's no one that tells me it isn't going to be crap. And then we might have a sales team that'll be like, oh,
You reviewed a headset recently. You said it was one of the best on Xbox, and I bought it, and I'm already returning it. It's horrible.
what is it? The Octis?
I that really surprised me. The Lucid Sound one.
The
I hate it.
35X
Hold on, let me grab it.
or the 50?
Yeah, absolutely. 35X.
Did you update?
Yeah,
the
I couldn't get the game and chat mix anywhere near where I wanted it, where I could actually hear people talking. And the mic was so bad that some of my friends are like, I can't. It sounds like you're like a mile away. I'm like, I've got it literally
really?
touching my lips.
Did you update
And
the firmware?
like Huh?
Did you update the firmware?
No.
See, I did write in my review that you have to update the firmware on those headsets because
I should have done that.
yeah,
Yeah, it did not work for me.
But
I should have
well,
checked that out.
I might stopping giving good scores to headsets that you do have to do firmware updates on and stuff because of things like that. Because not everybody has the inclination to update firmware. I do. Because
never
I'm
even
reviewing
thought
it
of
for it,
that.
yeah. You have.
Well, I mean,
on
where
the
would
Lucid Sound,
I
you
had to
have
plug it in my
update
PC to
firmware.
get the update?
Yeah, that's the other problem.
I never would have thought of that,
Yeah,
and I
exactly.
didn't read your review. I just saw your tweet, and I trust almost most stuff that you recommend. So
That's the
I went
problem when
for
you
it.
only read the headlines, man.
I know I'm such a troll, huh?
Yeah.
Such a terrible person on Twitter.
But no,
oh, look,
that's-
that tweet! I'm going to take it at face value and go spend $100.
Yeah, but that's useful information for me because I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought of that. That like someone could buy something. On
I mean, you can't put that in the offset. You know, you can't put it in the tweet. But
Yeah.
I should have read your review. But
It's a,
that's
it's
all
a
right.
negative.
I'll get a
It's
full
negative.
refund. It's no big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it is a negative. You know, you have to update the firmware, then it is a negative. But if you get like an older batch of those headsets, yeah, the firmware was screwed up. You know, out of the box. The LS50X as well. You know, slight tangent there. Okay, let's
sorry
move
about
on.
that.
Let's move on to the last question from Patreon, and then let's get out of here because it's getting a bit late. Okay, this is interesting. This is from Christopher Marlowe, and Christopher Marlowe says, now this will resonate with you guys because you're both really old, unlike me, which I'm
You-
really young. You both have talked about I mean, this is I suppose to all of us. You guys have talked about something similar to this, and would like to hear you elaborate. I feel like my reaction times and focus have clearly gotten worse than I was in my teens and 20s. I've been playing Dota 2 for literally 20 years, and I don't think I can be competitive like I used to be. Is it me getting worse, or do kids have too much time to play and take too much Adderall? Do you feel like you play less multiplayer competitive games now that since you compared to when you were younger? Do you play different genres of games than when you were younger? Do you feel like your focus and reaction times are worse? And does playing with disrespectful, playing with prepubescent incels annoy you too? Do you feel let down by Xbox's original promise of Xbox Live being a game service for adults? So. That's an interesting.
How many questions were there? Because I think I would answer yes to all of them.
Yeah, I mean the general gist of the question is like, do you feel like you've gotten worse at games as you get older, and also have your preferences changed as you've gotten older?
Yeah, he says focus and ability.
Yeah.
My focus is definitely way off the older I've gotten and the more things that I'd rather be doing. I don't have time to sit down and do simulation games. Until I probably grounded. Like I would never sit down and build in a game. I used to sit down and do that for hours, and I don't feel like I can do that anymore. My reaction time is probably not down because of age, but down because of rustiness. Because I don't like. I was talking to dealers like, you need to play Call of Duty online with me, or Gaz would say, I'm like, I don't want to. I don't want to be a 21-year-old and go, poning noobs on Call of Duty. I'll play a few matches and I'll die because I don't sit and get better. And it's just not fun for me. And my friends say, well, it's more fun when you get better. I'm like, but it's not fun for the 27 matches I'm going to play where I suck. And my patience goes away. And I'm like, I would rather play 7 other games right now than to do looty, shooty. Or not looty, but that's kind of... What was the other question? Has Xbox been marketing to adults?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely they do.
Do you regret the way Xbox Live is now, where there's like loads of kids on it? Or
it's always been like that. When I was at my peak of multiplayer co-op and competitive stuff on the 360, I was in my 30s, right? In my early 30s, and I couldn't stand it. There was squeakers back in the 2011s and 2012s, like crazy. 2010s, like you get on to Grand Theft Auto 5 or Call of Duty, and hey, check this, you noobs, and cussing and using foul language and saying inappropriate things, and I'm like, does your mom know you're on here? And then somebody would say that somebody say something like, I'm with his mom right now, and then it would get out of hand. But it's always been that way.
Did your
Rand,
do you speak to your mom with that voice?
Rand doesn't play a lot of competitive stuff. Like, what's your opinion on that, Rand?
I literally just got back. Oh, so what are we talking about?
yeah, so basically, like, do you feel like you've gotten worse at games as you got older, like competitive games, and have your gaming preferences changed as you've gotten older? And do you find the children on Xbox Live to be more annoying than?
Well, here's the, I don't know the children on Xbox Live because I'm always in a party chat. So I haven't been in game chat since probably the implementation of party chat in 2009. So I couldn't tell you about game chat and the kids on Xbox Live. So can't answer that one. But yes, I have gotten worse. I am 41. Not as old as Colt Eastwood. Not as old as Jez Corden, but I am older, and my skills have definitely deteriorated. I can definitely see that when I play stuff like Halo. And my preferences, have they changed? I mean, maybe not for like the overall stuff I like to play, but I know my multiplayer preferences change because all I really want to play in multiplayer now is Battle Royale. And even that is sort of started to fade. Like, I haven't really played much of Warzone 2. So I wonder if I'm kind of out of my battle royale phase. I've always enjoyed single player games, and I still enjoy them to this day. I do enjoy high quality indie titles or just indie titles in general, although I don't play as much as I used to. I still play the games and the genres that I liked. I guess the one that I've grown out of is JRPGs. I used to really be big and heavy into JRPGs during like the PS1, PS2 era, and then I sort of fell out of it during the PS3, 360 era. Like, for a while there, JRPGs was my favorite. Like Final Fantasy 7, 8, Shadow Hearts 2, Chrono Cross. Like, if there was an RPG to play on like the PS1 or like Final Fantasy 10 on the PS2, those were the games I look forward to the most.
I was the same way with JRPGs, but I kind of feel like that
changed.
I kind of feel like JRPGs just got worse and less mainstream, and also I guess they were on Xbox less, which didn't help. But like Final Fantasy X was probably the last good, great Final Fantasy in my view. And since then it's just all been downhill. I know there'll be people who will be really mad, but what about Final Fantasy 12? I don't rate Final Fantasy 12. I detest Final Fantasy 12's combat system so much. I can't tell you. I just hate that combat system. It's so fiddly and unintuitive. I can't stand it. But I've been playing Persona, but even Persona 5 doesn't really scratch the itch the way Final Fantasy 6 through 10 did. I don't know. But, as for me, like, I do feel like I can't pick up and play a shooter like I used to be able to. Back in the Battlefield Bad Company 2 days, like from Unreal Tournament to Battlefield Bad Company 2, I was like really hardcore FPS player. Like I play like all day with friends, getting from school, play some competitive FPS. Sort of dropped off a bit during the World of Warcraft obsession, but there was always like Battlefield in the background and Call of Duty as well. And I used to get on and I'd win games and shit every now and then and stuff like that. But I also feel like I'd be playing every day. Like I just don't do that anymore. I just can't do that anymore. I can't play Battlefield or Call of Duty every day. The only game that I've sort of kept up with is Overwatch. And I think like the thing that I'm actually thinking about doing is like writing an editorial about games trying to monopolize your time. Like I really wanted to complete Overwatch's Battle Pass, which meant that I didn't play Call of Duty at all. And then now it's sort of gotten to a point where it's like, well, I might as well just not play Call of Duty at all because everyone else will be better than me, high level than me, and have better guns than me. So what's the point?
Yep.
I'll just skip Call of Duty completely and just stick with Overwatch, where it's like a flat.
You got the PlayStation guys in there a month early or whatever it was, or 2 weeks early.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of annoying. Like all these games trying to monopolize all your time, which is why I really appreciate Evil West, by the way, because I know it's going to have an end. There's no battle pass. It's just a normal single player game with 2-player co-op, Gears of War-esque. And yeah, play it.
It's a video game's video game. It doesn't try to do anything. Doesn't try to be a Grammy award winning movie. It's cheesy. Like I'm not enjoying the story all that much, but it's just a fun, enjoyable video game. A lot of people have been asking us, Jez, since you and I have been playing, they've been asking us, is it worth buying? And it's kind of hard to say what someone should do with their $60 in the US, but I would just say I'm really enjoying it. And if you see it hit its first sale, maybe if that's, $49.99 and you're interested in what you saw on the footage and what I've shared, like, I think you should get it. I think you'll probably end up liking it. You should be able to look at a game being played and think, I know how that would feel on a controller or in my hands. You ever do that, Rand? Where you watch gameplay and you're like, I think I have a good idea how that game's going to feel and play.
Yeah.
And
I definitely
yeah, anyway.
do that. Like oftentimes
Rand left again.
Yeah, I think Rand's got some on at the minute, but
Yeah.
this is like I do that. Like oftentimes I'll just watch a trailer or something, and I'll just like know that that game is or isn't for me.
Right.
Sometimes I'm proven wrong though, I guess. But anyways, I think what we'll do now is we'll wrap it up. If there's any questions in the chat live, all the peeps that are watching live, thanks so much for joining us. And Colt, thanks a ton for joining us as well. Do you want to tell people where they can find you while we get some questions out of the chat, and then we'll go and get out of it and go to bed.
Yeah.
Brandel muted, bro. I
Brandel
actually was
muted.
talking.
on Hive. Oh, you were?
and I was like, anyways, and then you guys were like, what? And I'm like, oh yeah, my phone was ringing, so I
Muted.
was
Well,
muted.
I think I was just asking you if you can tell how a game feels by looking at the gameplay because you've played enough games.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes you can. Sometimes you can't, which is why it's not really the best idea to judge a game off of just something you watched. You might be able to judge the story or whatever, but sometimes games just play differently, Games is just, yeah.
but yeah, let's Colt, tell us where we can find you, and if people in the live chat drop us some questions, and then we'll answer a few, and then we'll get on out of here.
You can follow me on Hive and Mastodon, and I went and made those accounts, and I haven't really done anything with them. I guess I sort of just secured my name for whatever
Same.
that means. But as the time has gone on, I'm like, yeah, Twitter's not going anywhere. I think it'll be
No.
fine. Whatever. Some stuff will get cleaned up, and we'll all have forgotten about it. But I'm at Colt Eastwood, one word, at most everywhere. Instagram, YouTube. I don't really use Instagram that much, but mostly just putting out videos and tweeting. So just talking to people. But thanks for having me on. I also do a show called Ecstasy Podcast on Monday nights at 5 Pacific time on the West Coast. It's kind of like this, so yeah, I appreciate it.
Rock and
Thank
roll,
you.
baby.
Let's hear some questions.
Right, so let's have some questions. Right, Christopher M asks, do you guys think hot swappable graphics cards could be possible, like the hard drive expansion slot, but just swap out the GPU? I suppose that's a bit more of a technical question. I suppose I can answer it a little bit because I actually reviewed a Razer Thunderbolt external GPU housing a couple of years ago, I think. Honestly,
Yeah.
it worked really well. Like, it didn't give me any issues. It was basically like a huge. It was about the size of an Xbox Series X actually, and you put your GPU in it, and it connected to your laptop via Thunderbolt 3, I think, and now we're on Thunderbolt 4, and now they're talking about USB-C 4 as well, which is going to be even more fast. So I think it is potentially something they could maybe consider. And I reckon this is a rumor that came up ages ago that Microsoft was considering a sort of modular console that you could upgrade by swapping parts in and out. But the problem there is, you're probably going to end up with proprietary tech. And as we've seen with the hot swappable SSDs on the Series S and X, proprietary often means more expensive. So,
Yeah.
at that
I think
point,
I think Microsoft made the wrong choice because remember, it was very hotly debated because on PlayStation at launch they were going for like SSDs that you could put in yourself, and Xbox fans were like, but you have to unscrew it. It's well, at least we could just plug it in. But as time has gone on, the prices of the SSDs on Xbox's side have not gone down because no other competitors joined the market. While you
Why
can
is
get
that? That was like something that was supposed to happen
I don't
a year
know.
after.
I don't know. I mean, all Seagate did is just here's 1 terabyte at launch, and here's a 512 later on, and then a 2 terabyte. Like 2 terabyte one's literally on sale right now for Black Friday for $360, $40 off.
no
them.
thanks.
It normally goes for $400, but PlayStation was like, you can use your own, and you can essentially get a 2 terabyte for like $180 or whatever it is.
Half the price, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like it seemed like, well, we know which one was a better move for consumers.
yeah.
About the modular thing, Jez, it's interesting because Tom Henderson's reporting that Sony is planning on putting out PS5s next year with detachable disk drives, right?
Interesting. Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I think that's
So
something. I think we could see more modularity. I mean, in the 360 era, Microsoft undercut Sony by basically um, going for modularity. They had a detachable HD DVD drive, which
Hmm.
HD DVDs were never a thing in the end, but they tried, bless them. And they also had a detachable Wi-Fi connector. So like the original Xbox
Oh, that
360.
thing was so expensive too.
Yeah, yeah. So like that could be a way to tailor your own bundle. You know, if you're someone who connects up your Xbox with Ethernet, maybe you don't need a Wi-Fi card and swap that out. You know, maybe you can build your
It'd
own
have to
Xbox
be
bundle.
it'd have to be external because I just don't see
Yeah,
them
yeah,
building
yeah, yeah.
room for something bigger. Like you open up a console, especially the Series S or X, and there isn't even room for air in there. These things are so perfectly form factored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, that might be an editorial I put out.
Plus, they use
But
an APU, which is a CPU and GPU built all in one piece. So you'd be swapping out the entire thing, which is like plastered onto a board like a PC, and it just sounds crazy.
yeah, it's all fun and games. But I agree with Rand though. Ultimately, that Sony made the right choice, and I'll probably write an editorial about that.
I would rather them go mid-gen than go hot swappable, external or
yeah,
whatever.
I mean, remember Xbox said that other companies would join the fray and that would drive the prices down, but
And they
2 years
didn't.
into it, we haven't seen it, and who knows if we will.
Do you think
So
companies are like, there's not really money in selling those
I don't
SSDs?
know. Maybe they think that it's not worth it. There's not a big market, or there's not a big market. Maybe Seagate still has the exclusivity. Maybe they had like a 2 year exclusivity or something. But
Mm,
I don't know. All I know is like a 2 terabyte thing for $400 is absolutely absurd.
I've told
So
everybody just buy an external, hard drive and just if you have to move stuff back and forth. It only takes 9 minutes to move a gigantic game over to
yeah,
your
I just
yeah.
remember all the discussions about this leading up. And like, oh, Microsoft is least it's there at the beginning, and it's super simple. And PlayStation, you gotta like take apart the system and unscrew it, and it's blah blah blah
There's
blah
a
blah. And
screw in everything.
it wasn't there right away, and then it came like 6 or 8 months later. And now it's like, yeah, well, that's what happens when you have like choices. Is the prices go down. So yeah, what are you gonna do? I don't think we'll ever see where it's like you can just plug in a graphics card. I don't think it'll ever get like that. But something like disk drive kind of does make sense. So I think they kind of want to move away from
It's so
physical
weird
media.
because physical games are going to be out the door before they launch that. I mean, for the most part,
Well, I
but
mean, no,
whatever.
they're still sold.
I
Like,
know they're
I mean,
still
I think,
selling them, but they're at 70 to 80% digital market on their store right now. Their customers are 80% digital. So like by the time they launch this, they'll be at 85% digital, and you're already on your way
yeah.
out of kind of getting away. Anyway, who cares?
You know,
maybe
Glitch
that's the
Doctor
whole.
says, "Colt, you were such a good guest, much better than
Oh,
Nick would
thank
ever
you.
be."
Oh,
And
stop it.
Ah,
Nick would be a horrible guest. Yes.
oh, poor Nick. Well, we'll probably have to get Nick on now to apologise to him. But the last question is from EFA Spartan, who asks, "Have you heard anything about Starfield or maybe the Game Awards in general?"
I have, but I can't say. But it sounds good. It sounds like it could be good news. So I
mm,
don't. Um, we didn't actually address that during the show. You asked me, I think, Randon, you asked me about if we're going to see a presence
Yeah,
from
if you think
Xbox
you see
at the
a presence
VGAs.
from Xbox, you never answered. What?
Yeah, we never got around to it. I think we started talking about, Jez's, shoelaces or something. I don't know. We went off on a tangent.
tangent.
Um,
So yeah,
they
tell
have
us, Tom.
to. They have to.
They have
They
to.
have to show one thing, and I really think they're way overdue to just show 30 seconds or a minute of Avowed. Even if half of it is CGI and just a little, like the smallest sliver that they can muster. And you got to believe that at this point, that Obsidian has 1 minute of maybe a few clips they could pin together that look like impenetrable, like where they can't, nobody's going to zoom in and go, oh my Craig. They've got to have at least 1 minute of footage that they are super proud of and that they feel like could stand the test of critics and just excite the Xbox fans. They've got to be there this, for this video game awards. What about you guys? What do you think?
Man,
Uh-oh.
it's hard to
Uh-oh.
say. Well, I mean, I agree with you that they should be there. They should be there.
Yeah.
But I have like, I don't know. I've got mixed messages from some sources about whether or not they're gonna have a big presence there or not. It could be that they hold back maybe, and then give us a big blowout at E3 next year.
Oh boy.
But yeah,
Sorry.
I would prefer it if they did show up at the Game Awards, just to keep the flow going. But at the same time, how about this? Maybe because Sony's probably not going to be at this Game Awards in any big way, right? You guys agree?
Sony never comes to these. Sony or Nintendo never.
Exactly.
Sony didn't even make a showcase this year.
Yeah, Sony. Well, yeah, I do. Do you guys believe that rumor that they didn't do one because they didn't want to, because they thought it would hurt their arguments with the CMA?
I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
But that's what I'm getting at here. Is that maybe Microsoft holds back on the Game Awards, because they don't want to disrupt their regulatory arguments right now. If they go to the Game Awards being like, look at all these great games we've got coming, it kind of potentially maybe sends.
Does it really? Do you think that matters?
I don't know. Maybe they think it matters. Does it matter? I don't know about that, but maybe they think it matters.
Or what if they're planning on doing a show at the beginning of the year, and it's like, why not save everything for our show at the beginning of the year versus give some.
Never have a show at the beginning of the year, Randall Thor.
I know, but they hired somebody. They're hiring people. Like, I'm just saying, this is the year that I expect Xbox to have multiple shows, whether it's the E3 show plus XO plus another show. Like, you have too many studios with too many games coming for you to just rely on one day in June to carry everything.
Yeah.
It's like time, you gotta evolve with the times. I mean, I still think we'll see like Starfield or Starfield or Redfall at the show. I don't know if we'll see anything from Xbox Game Studios, because what does really Xbox Game Studios have right now that we know for next year is Forza Motorsport. That's the wrong venue to show off.
Yeah,
that game,
correct.
Right?
Correct.
Minecraft Legends, I also think that's the wrong venue for that type of game. Era History Untold, wrong venue. So Redfall and Starfield makes sense. And we don't know what Microsoft's game is for the back half of the year, but they don't really have to talk about the back half of the year. So it's quite possible that all they really have is like Game Pass trailers or stuff for Game Pass, which is what they want to push.
They usually do at an ID at Xbox event though, or a Gamescom.
I don't know. I don't know if I see. The thing is, like, I think Xbox and Bethesda, the marketing teams are so different, or they have different goals and they're separate. Where you have two Bethesda games coming soon, and this is like the biggest thing before these games launch. So it's like maybe it's time to drop a Redfall release date trailer. But for like Xbox Game Studios, it's like I don't think we'll see Hellblade again, because they just showed it last year.
Yeah.
And
even though they just wrapped up mocap, just kidding.
I'm more, well, yeah. Jez? Okay, we need to talk about that. Okay, Jez, we have to talk about. Did you saw all the stuff about? You guys didn't write a story about this, did you, on Windows Central?
Which story?
He wasn't listening.
I was listening.
I said they're wrapping up mocap on. They just wrapped up mocap.
They're wrapping up the mocap.
Did you guys write an article about that?
No, we didn't. It's Black Friday.
Okay.
Nothing matters except Black Friday now for the next week.
Because me and Colt were in a party, and I'm like, I saw this because I saw a tweet, but I'm like, what is the source? Because this is how I am. I'm like, I want to get to the source of everything. At
investigative journalism.
And so I'm like fucking looking around for it, and I'm like, okay, I see the Idle Sloth tweet, and I Google it, and all the articles, all they do is point to Idle Sloth's tweet, and I'm like, okay, so where's the original source? I ended up finding out that the original source was just Melissa Juergens, who plays the main character, or whatever. Yeah, Melinda. She posted the two pictures on her Instagram and didn't say anything. just posted the 2 pictures, and he's like, our stage at whatever. And then Idle Sloth made up the thing that
Not Idle Sloth, somebody that shared it with Idle Sloth, like a guy named Robert
that
something.
Spanish like Xbox YouTuber was like, this is obviously the closing of the mocap. And then Idle Sloth then later on tweeted out with that in there, and I'm like, so it was completely just like no official confirmation. She just posted a couple pictures, and now it's like everybody assumes it's real. And I'm always the one trying to be like, and I tell call it time, like, where is this coming from? What's the source on this? Like,
Yeah,
so
you were not going to take that at face value at all
because
maybe
there's no truth to that.
This is in journalism we call this due diligence. I'm getting tired now. I'm speaking like Rand now. Jesus.
Gee, what? Excuse me?
What? Sorry, I just had something stuck in my throat there. But yeah, we call this due diligence, where you check the source, and oftentimes when it comes to Idle Sloth, bless him, I asked him, what's the original source for this? If it's not been shared, So I had to do that this week for something else. Oh yeah, I saw an account share power comparisons in a graph showing that the Xbox Series S is the most power efficient console.
Oh yeah, I saw you question that one. Yep.
Yeah, so I was like, what's the source for this? Because it just says Eurogamer or something, but I kind of you don't know. Has it been taken out of context? Has it sort of been manipulated somehow? You don't know unless you know
somebody
the
making
source
up the numbers because they sound right.
Yeah, something like that. But obviously, Eurogamer, Digital Foundry are absolutely an authority in the space when it comes to all things technologically console related. So, I was kind of like, what's the source on this? And that's called due diligence. Fuck. But yeah, with that, I think we're gonna stop there because I'm getting super tired.
Well, we got one more question, just really quickly.
Oh, sorry.
It's a easy question. EFA Spartan says, if you can take one more question, do you think Avowed will be first and third, or do you think they're sticking with just first person view? So I guess we'll throw out the Colt, and then we'll actually get the real answer from Jess.
Oh, yeah.
First and third or just first?
If I'm gonna go by Obsidian, I'm gonna say just first because Outer Worlds was only first. They didn't give you a third person, which really ticks me off because your armor looks so incredible in Outer Worlds. So I'm just gonna assume Murphy's Law. But actually, there's probably a good chance it would give you both viewpoints to choose from. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was only first person. What was the other question?
Jez, what was the real answer? Do you know the answer to this?
I don't know definitively whether they're going to stick with first or third, but I kind of agree completely with Colt that, based on the Outer Worlds and that they're using probably a lot of the same engine code and stuff like that, maybe it is going to be first person only. But at the same time, I have heard that they're trying to step up to the next level with Avowed, and they've, trying to improve the graphics quality and animation fidelity and all that kind of stuff. So maybe this, because they know a lot of people do want to play RPGs in third person. It was a big contentious issue with Cyberpunk, for example.
Yep.
So maybe they could squeeze it in, but honestly, I personally doubt it. I think they'll stick with first. And that's the way it is. The reason Starfield, do we know if Starfield does first and third? I don't know.
Starfield does both. They showed it in the trailer several times. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the
but
engine
everybody ends up playing it in first almost all the time because it's not specifically built that way. And no matter how great you are.
With Fallout 4 and Fallout 3, I often switch out to third if I'm using a lot of VATS, because then you don't have to aim. But or if I'm using something like the junk cannon. God, I love that gun so much. It's so amazing. But anyway,
I know you should play it.
Yeah,
Randall Thor.
Yeah, Rand hasn't played Fallout 4. I don't know.
No, he missed it because of Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Yeah, Colt
and then he
tells
never
me
went
all
back
about
it.
it. Hey, but next year, man, we got the update coming. Series X and S update for Fallout.
I mean, you're not gonna have time to play it.
The only Fallout content you guys will be getting for the next 8 years, by the way.
Christ.
That's true.
But yeah. But the thing about that is the engine's built for it from the ground up for first and third person. I feel like the vast majority of games just don't do that. They just don't give you the option between first and third person. I think like one of the only other ones I can think of is Battlefront.
It's just Bethesda games that do it. Really, it's just not common.
What's Rand laughing at?
So PlayStation announced that God of War broke all their first party sales records and sold 5 million in like the first week, right? It was the first week. Nintendo just announced that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet crossed 10 million copies sold in 3 days.
Holy cow!
That's ridiculous. That is.
Yeah, I mean
that's like a true hold my beer, right?
It's double what God of War did.
Yeah.
In less time.
Tweet out right now. Pokemon says hold my beer.
Yeah, that'd be for you, Cole. I hate Pokemon.
We need Dark Rand. We need Dark Rand.
I haven't tweeted, bro. I haven't tweeted in like a week.
Come on, give us Dark Rand. It's the first guest show. Give us Dark Rand.
I actually really like. Even though God of War Ragnarok has a lot of issues, has a lot of problems. It's not 10 out of 10 like 2018. I still greatly enjoyed my time with it, and I think it deserves all the sales it gets. But I mean,
Randall Diplomatic.
You know what this just means? Is this that it just means that
Randall Diplomatic.
You know what this means? It just means that the Pokemon fans do not care about that game, and you can have all the tech issues that you want because the people will just buy it like mindless sheep every year.
Do you know the real reason why this is? It's because, and it's the reason why Halo is, I call Halo a Lego game. It's because of that mature rating. Mature rating absolutely batters your sales. It really does. That's why like Halo tries to avoid the mature rating so much, and that's why.
Why they didn't before? Wasn't it a mature game or has it always been teen?
I don't know for sure, but
they never use any strong language in the Halo games.
I talk to people about this, and they're like, mature rating's really bad, for sales. Like if you're gonna go for a mature rating, it's bad because you can't get.
No, that's true. I mean, E for Everyone
kiddies,
can be the biggest game ever. Yeah.
You can't get your little kiddos involved, and there's like laws and shit about all that stuff. You can't sell games to people without ID and all that kind of crap. Especially in our digital age, you physically can't buy things unless you're a certain age, So that's definitely part of it, probably. But then again, it's kind of like if God of War was not as hyper-violent or mature as it is, would it even sell that well at all? It's hard to say. But also, Pokemon's a tour de force. You can't, even though it is a buggy mess and looks horrible. A lot of people I know playing it say it's the best Pokemon's been in years. So I'm probably going to end up buying it too, so you can add me to those sales figures in a month. But anyway, guys,
Jeez.
I think, sorry. Rand, that's what I'm going to do. On the Patreon, I'm going to put a vote up for gameplay poll and Pokemon.
I knew it.
One of the options.
I knew it. Put up a poll. Should Rand record the footage or should Jez record the footage?
Rand would not honor that, no matter how explosive the Patreon was. But
he's so stubborn. I love Rand to death, but boy, is he stubborn.
He is really stubborn.
Come on, Rand, play Pokemon. So I'm just kidding.
No, you play Pokemon.
Rand. I wouldn't either.
Anyway, guys,
play Pokemon.
I think we're going to wrap it up there. So thanks to everyone for joining us on the first XB2+1 with Colt Eastwood. I'm going to drop Colt's, social links in the description, which I should have done before, but professional podcasting and all that. And I think that's it. So I'm going to get out of here.
Super fun, guys.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thank you so much, Colt. And it was Cole. I mean, I'm getting really tired now. I was watching this Evil West footage and thinking of Coltrane, I think, because Gears of War. There are Gears of War vibes in Evil West, but yes, let's get out of here. I'm really tired. I'm sorry. But yeah, thanks so much, Colt, and I guess thanks Rand as well.
I guess Rand,
Rand, yeah.
Hey, Rand, call me sometime, would you?
Yeah.
Bro, I'll think about it.
Rand will play Taylor Swift down the phone, man. Yeah, take care, everybody.
Yep. Yeah, thanks, everybody. We'll see you on Friday for the Xbox 2.
Or next Friday if you're watching this later on the VOD.
Yeah, or next Friday. Keep it gaming, guys.
See you next time.